My Marvel superhero girlfriend. Hello again, dear adventurers of the multiverse. Thanks for joining us once more on this epic journey. Remember, this story is pure science fiction from our wild imagination, so don't go trying to summon dragons in your backyard. The rights of this amazing novel belong entirely to its original author. We are only the narrators. Do you want more adventures? Show some love to our YouTube channel with a subscription and a like, and if you want exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting for you with open arms. Chapter 451. My youth is back. Nian takes action. No matter what, I have Superman genes, and will represent the Superman family from now on, the black-clad youth said. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Joining a villain organization and wantonly trampling on truth and rules, you're a disgrace to the Superman gene. Little Jonathan Kent trembled with rage, his red eyes threatening to blaze with rage. He shouted, and like a grenade, his small body slammed into the black-clad youth at breakneck speed. The riptide and the non-mainstream youth stood still, not intending to attack. From their perspective, there was clearly no need to engage. The black-clad youth launched a fierce right punch, catching the incredibly fast little Jonathan Kent in the gut. The 5-year-old boy was sent flying, sending him flying like a meteor into the blazing base building behind him. Boom! The already shaky base building collapsed in half. Great! Looks like we can get off work early. The non-mainstream youth whistled and clapped their hands. As expected of a Kryptonian Superman, Riptide's eyes were filled with fear. Although the other man was the most unruly of the Hellfire Club, he was indeed the strongest fighter. Meanwhile, inside the base, you actually sent him here. Deathstroke, standing in the first-floor corridor, peered through the window at Connor Kent standing outside the Junior League headquarters. He shook his head and sheathed his katana. What are you doing? Nightwing, Dick, and Damian Wayne watched Deathstroke as he made to leave. My mercenary mission is complete. I'll take your lives next time, if you survive tonight. Deathstroke said, carrying his twin katanas, and walked into the flame-swept corridor. On the other side, the second floor of the base had collapsed in half, flames spreading. Little Jonathan, are you okay? Wonder Girl and Starfire hurriedly pulled the boy out, who had been thrown in and embedded in the inner wall. Damn it! Little Jonathan was filled with rage, but he could only hold his stomach and retch, shouting, Run! They've sent a clone with some of my father's genes. Wonder Girl and Starfire's expressions changed, knowing how powerful Connor Kent was. After all, anyone with Kryptonian genetic bloodline was either a monster or a monster among monsters. Furthermore, there was a powerful enemy, the humanoid female leopard, nearby, threatening to kill him. Snap! Raven, the hooded girl who had been sitting in the corner of the sofa, suddenly closed the book she was holding. Then, pitch-black raven feathers seemed to float around her, transforming into a stream of black light that instantly enveloped Wonder Girl, Starfire, and little Jonathan on the second floor of the base. The black light spread, enveloping Nightwing and Damian Wayne as they rushed up the stairs. Whoosh! When the black-clad young man, Connor Kent, soared onto the second floor of the base with a powerful gust of wind, only the humanoid female panther remained. Wonder Girl, Starfire, Raven, Nightwing, and the others, along with a book in Raven's hand, had vanished. Where are they? Connor Kent asked. The humanoid female panther glanced at him with indifferent eyes, then walked away with a wild yet graceful stride. Connor Kent frowned. Coincidentally, his communicator began to buzz. Connor answered it, and a woman's commanding voice rang out, How's the situation going? The other side also has personnel with teleportation capabilities, but they've all escaped, Connor replied. Don't worry, bring the target back, the woman replied coldly. The target is currently in a New York hotel, where the Red Devil signal just disappeared. We'll arrive at the scene in half a minute. As soon as Connor finished speaking, he took off from the spot, crashing through the base's ceiling, transforming into a streak of black light and disappearing into the night sky at a rapid speed. Outside the base. Let's go back. Jilly watched the other man's figure disappear in the blink of an eye, muttering softly, He's taken action. We have no business here anymore. New York, inside a 5-star hotel. Master. Alice cast her gaze at the dark-haired young man on the sofa. Nian glanced at the sleeping blonde girl and casually said, Let's buy this hotel first and make them leave. Master, this hotel is one of our family's assets, Alice replied. Not just this hotel, over half of the assets in New York's new downtown area belong to us. That's fine. Nian shrugged, gazing out at the night sky. Why haven't they arrived yet? Another 10 seconds passed. The hotel's revolving glass door was smashed open, and a young man in black leather rushed in, exuding an extremely powerful aura. Alice stepped forward, blocking Nian's way and confronting Connor, a clone of half-Superman. Connor raised a brow, wondering where the other man got the courage to confront him. The destructive power he had just displayed was enough to make the soldier's legs weaken. Unfortunately, Connor Kent lacked X-ray vision, or he would have recognized the girl's difference. But then, a pair of hands suddenly grasped the silver-haired girl's slender waist, lifting her petite form in a maid's dress and gently placing it on his lap. Master. Alice turned back, puzzled, her pale blue eyes white as jewels. Did you say he has half Lex Luthor's genes? Nian blinked. He had always held a grudge. Lex Luthor, due to his scheme against Lorna, was one of the few supervillains Nian had angered without facing retaliation. After all, Lex Luthor had died on the Grand Air before Nian could even take action. Let me do this. You keep an eye on Jean, Nian said cheerfully. I haven't been out in a while. It's a good time to warm up. Don't waste villain resources. By the end of his era, villains on Earth were practically extinct, and even if they still existed, they wouldn't dare to show up for a night out. Such a powerful, native Earth villain is truly rare. Nian felt a sense of revival. All right. Alice felt a little helpless, yet also a little delighted. She turned sideways, tilting her smooth, white neck upwards. Her gleaming silver hair flowed like mercury, sending two soft, cherry blossom-like petals towards him. Nian lowered his head and removed the medium. Connor Kent looked at the master and servant who ignored him, and the rage of being a single dog ignited, propelling him to sprint forward like a human hurricane, cracking the floor. At that moment, time in the hotel seemed to freeze. Nian suddenly stood up, holding Alice in his arms. His eyes gleamed with white electricity, and like a right fist coated in silver metal, he struck first, sending Connor flying backwards. Chapter 452. Are you the strongest villain in 5 years? On the outskirts of Washington, 30 kilometers from the Junior League headquarters, in an open space, a black light flashed, and several figures, including young boys and girls, appeared. They were the Junior League members: Nightwing Dick, the second Robin; Damian Wayne, the fifth Robin; Cassie, the Wonder Girl; Starfire Corianda; Jonathan Kent, the son of Superman; and Raven. Most of them were pale, except for the girl in a gray-black coated cape, who lowered her head slightly, clutching her books. I didn't expect a Hellfire Club to get involved. This is really tricky. Nightwing Dick's face was heavy. The Junior League had only recently been established, and many of its members were relatively young. Going up against established supernatural forces was naturally unfavorable. Furthermore, the Hellfire Club was more than just a villain organization, otherwise, the other leagues wouldn't have let it go unchecked. The Hellfire Club had been whitewashing themselves years ago and occasionally accepted government contracts, making them a mercenary supernatural force that operated both legally and illegally. Because they don't blindly commit evil and operate on the fringes of the law, some countries now allow them to enter and operate. This is one of the after effects of the Flash incident 5 years ago. Humanity's fear of alien invasion has led to a greater desire for supernatural powers than ever before, and they will pursue them at all costs. Next time, I'll absolutely kill him, that guy. Damian Wayne clutched the two bat blades tightly in his hands, his eyes icy. Unlike Batman's ruthless approach to killing, he comes from a family of assassins and prefers to fight violence with violence and killing with killing. In Damian Wayne's view, those who operate outside the law, like Deathstroke, are best killed. Damian, Nightwing Dick said, as if reading his mind. Just now, if they really wanted to kill us, even if we joined forces, we wouldn't have lasted more than a minute. Now, perhaps neither of us can stand together. Damian Wayne's young face froze, and his hands tightened, acutely aware of the gap in strength between him and Deathstroke. Furthermore, above Deathstroke, there were formidable enemies like Connor Kent, clones endowed with superhuman genes. Without fear of the kryptonite weakness, victory seemed impossible. Nightwing Dick sighed softly. Mr. Bruce, truly remarkable. He was able to single-handedly establish the Justice League with a mortal physique and confront an unknown and powerful alien force. Don't mention him to me, Damian Wayne snorted. In the end, he still failed and needed someone else to save him. Who told you that? Nightwing Dick's face was solemn, and he looked directly at Damian Wayne in a rare moment of anger. Although Nightwing had been driven from Gotham, it was clear that he still held Batman in high esteem. Damian Wayne said unconvincedly, "Isn't it? I've seen some of the Justice League's previous combat files." Alright. Wonder Girl stepped between the two and reached out to separate Nightwing Dick and Damian Wayne, who were about to quarrel. Now is not the time to quarrel. Although we escaped successfully, don't forget that the Hellfire Club has always been targeting Zayakan. Nightwing Dick and Damian Wayne were startled. "Raven, where did you teleport Zayakan before?" Starfire asked. Without even looking up, the hooded girl replied, "New York." "This is bad." Little Jonathan Kent lowered his hand from his abdomen. His pure Kryptonian blood quickly restored his health. He muttered, "They sent Connor Kent from Washington to New York. He can get there in less than a minute." Nightwing said solemnly, "We can't let them take Jin." "That's what I thought." Wonder Girl spread her hands and asked, "Raven, can you use a mass teleport again?" Raven nodded slightly. "In that case, I'm going to New York." Wonder Girl raised her hand. "Count me in," Starfire seconded. "What if we run into Connor Kent again?" Damian Wayne, not one to act on impulse, raised a practical question. Everyone fell silent. Clang. Wonder Girl clenched her fists and clashed them together, a golden electric current swirling around her golden gloves. She smiled casually, "We'll see what happens when we meet. If we let them take Jean, how can we still be considered a superhero team?" "That's true." The others laughed, easing the tense atmosphere within the team. Young and brave enough to face any crisis and difficulty head-on, isn't that what the Junior League is all about? Then let's get ready for New York. Bring Jean back. Wonder Girl's blonde hair trembled as she shouted with high morale. New York, a 5-star hotel being evacuated. A roar erupted, the air surging. Driven by a powerful gust of wind like a fist, the young man in the black jacket slammed several scoops onto the ground, sending them careening through the hotel's revolving door, which he had previously broken, and into the street outside. Finally, the young man in black smashed into a parked jeep, denting and deforming it, causing it to move several meters before finally coming to a stop. Crack. Connor Kent, holding onto the shattered door of the jeep, slowly rose from the dented interior, his gaze fixed in bewilderment on the hotel lobby. What the hell is going on? Though he lacked X-ray vision and couldn't clearly see the other person's physical condition, he could clearly sense that their aura had completely changed. Inside the lobby, the mysterious young man placed the silver-haired girl he was holding on the sofa. He took a step forward, his short black hair strangely turning a mercury silver, his brown eyes gleaming with a faint, emotionless, electric light. His skin, once a healthy, pale wheat color, along with his shirt and uniform, was now coated with a layer of silver metal, revealing his physique, previously hidden beneath his clothes, revealing the contours of his muscles, as if cast from molten iron. A wisp of yellow flame burned between his brows, faintly forming the mark of a gem. With a slight movement of his body, Nian, in vibranium vision mode, naturally escaped gravity and floated upward. While this single mode wasn't the strongest, it was certainly one of the most comprehensive abilities. A thought struck him. All the cameras on the streets of New York where he was staying were disabled, the lights near the hotel went out, and the street projections switched to evacuation guidance messages. "I heard you're the strongest villain 5 years from now." Nian clenched his vibranium fist slightly. His figure, standing a meter above the floor, moved so fast it practically vanished into shadow. Let me test equality. Chapter 453 Vibranium Vision Mode, The True King. Here it comes. Connor Kent's eyes narrowed at the rapidly approaching young man. He swung his right fist with a powerful force that instantly broke through the sound barrier. Up and down. The silver-gold fist collided with a fist clad in a black fingerless glove. Bang! Air pressure and airflow within a 10-meter radius were thrown into chaos, and the road surface where Connor Kent stood cracked and sank. What a powerful force. Connor Kent's face changed slightly. The other party possessed strength comparable to his own, perhaps even greater. He possessed half a superhuman gene. Before he could even think, Vibranium Vision's Nian swung his right fist again. Connor Kent gritted his teeth and followed suit with his left fist. With superhuman genes, there was no reason to admit defeat in a fistfight. Boom. Their other fists collided again, like a small tactical missile detonating near the ground. The ground on the street shook violently, and the windows on both sides shattered. Nian, in vibranium vision mode, floated low in the sky. Connor Kent was like a wooden stake, his legs nearly sunk into the sunken ground. You only have brute force, but no superhuman force field. Even your brute force doesn't reach the level of a normal Kryptonian Superman. Nian lowered his gaze, looking at Connor Kent, who held his fists out and gritted his teeth, and shook his head. What do you know about Superman? Connor Kent shouted in shock and anger. I know Superman all too well. Nian shrugged, and his eyes suddenly shot out a pair of red lasers. The laser energy burned through Connor Kent's jacket and sent him plummeting into the underground sewers beneath the highway. You don't even have thermal vision. Nian was disappointed. Bang! Connor Kent burst out from the road behind Nian, his eyes bloodshot, but he was indeed unable to project actual thermal vision. He had always been proud of his superhuman genes, but now, the other party had directly exposed his true nature. That's right. As a clone with only half Superman's genes, despite being the only one successfully created in the lab, he still couldn't reach the perfection of a Kryptonian. While he possessed abilities like flight, super strength, and superhuman stamina, he lacked a superhuman force field, energy absorption, X-ray vision, and clairvoyance. Of course, even with only a fraction of Superman's abilities, it was enough to make him Earth's top superhuman. Connor Kent's strength had been fixed from birth, and today was the first time he'd suffered such a loss. Who the hell are you? Connor Kent felt as if the other person truly understood Kryptonian Superman better than he did. Guess. In vibranium mode, Nian continued to soar forward at breakneck speed. His current power was only slightly weaker than Superman mode, but with a brain capable of near artificial intelligence, every movement was effortless, a perfect blend of superhuman strength and top-tier skill. Like a highly skilled cyborg, Nian engaged Connor Kent with ease and fluidity. Bang bang! The central area of New York City was shattered. Connor Kent was losing speed. He crossed his arms in front of him for protection, but the next moment, he was struck in the back. He plummeted 10 meters above the street into a construction building next to the hotel, piercing countless layers of wall. Damn it! Connor Kent had never experienced such indignation before. He quickly struggled to his feet, only to be met with a young man's vibranium fists and 2 crimson laser beams. Boom! The entire 10-story construction building collapsed in seconds. Within the rubble, the battle continued unabated. A tall young man, his body perfectly plated with silver metal, pinned a white man in a tattered jacket to the ground, grinding him hard. In comparison, the former looked more like an invincible and evil supervillain. On the edge of a New York street, atop a commercial building. The scene before them made the Junior League members, who had collectively teleported there, momentarily doubt their own eyes. What did I see? The Hellfire Club's strongest fighter, a clone of Superman's genes. Connor Kent can't defeat anyone else. Wonder Girl rubbed the back of her head and couldn't help but say, it's more than just being defeated, right? I see, he's clearly being ravaged and beaten. No way. Nightwing Dick and Damian Wayne were questioning their lives in the cold wind. One moment, they seemed to be an unstoppable enemy. The next, they were being chased and beaten by someone else. The reversal was so fast. It caught them off guard. Little Jonathan, is your dad here? Starfire called out. Due to the dust rising from the ruins in the distance, in the dark night, it was difficult to see who was fighting Connor Kent. All they could see was his towering figure. He's not my father. 5-year-old Jonathan leaped to his feet. His astonishing eyesight allowed him to clearly see the battlefield in the distance. But he's truly formidable. He looks only in his 20s, yet he's beaten Connor Kent to the point where he can barely fight back. Aside from my father, I've never seen anyone of that level of strength. Of course he's strong, Nightwing said with a wry smile. My power detector shows he's at a whopping 100,000, the highest the detector can detect. 100,000. Many members were stunned. Although the detector was only a baseline, even Jonathan, the son of Superman, had a power of less than 10,000. Jonathan muttered to himself, wait a minute, why do I feel so familiar? I feel like I've seen him somewhere before. With a snap, the Junior League members turned around in surprise to see the book the hooded girl had been holding suddenly fall to the ground. Raven, what's wrong? Wonder Girl asked with concern. Raven didn't reply. Beneath the shadow of her cloak's hood, a pair of deep, luminous gray-black eyes appeared. Finally, I found you. My king. The ruins of the battlefield. Bang! 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 Standing less than a centimeter above the ground, Nian grabbed Connor Kent's right ankle with one hand and swung him back and forth, slamming him into the ground on both sides, sinking the entire ruin several meters. Is it over? Nian, in vibranium vision mode, lowered his eyes, watching the clone he held in one hand, hanging upside down in the air. His jacket was tattered, Connor Kent's face was bruised and purple, and his body seemed swollen. He spoke with difficulty. You did something wrong. What? Nian was curious. You shouldn't underestimate the enemy. Connor Kent had just finished speaking when, with the last bit of his strength, he reached forward and placed his long-lost black glove on Nian's leg. As a clone with only half Superman's genes, Connor Kent was indeed a flawed Superman clone, but he possessed a unique ability, born from the fusion of Superman and human genes, contact telekinesis. He could disintegrate any object he touched. This ability wasn't physical, but rather a psychic decomposition ability. Don't worry, I'll spare your life and only destroy your legs. A strange white light flickered in Connor Kent's eyes and palms. Nian, in vibranium vision mode, remained unmoved, as if at this distance, he couldn't react to Connor Kent's backup plan in time. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds passed. The white light from Connor Kent's hand dissipated. His eyes were glazed over with disbelief as he gazed at the other's intact body. It couldn't be decomposed. Even the hardest vibranium metal would crack and shatter under his unique ability. In that instant, Connor Kent sensed a physical strength in the other, countless times greater than his own, a physical strength that shouldn't even exist in this world. Even psychic abilities couldn't penetrate or decompose it. Absolutely perfect defense. Connor Kent was completely stunned, a bitter taste forming on his lips. Wasn't this bullying? Chapter 454 The Eighth Permanent Ability? Exclamation mark. Connor Kent, carrying half Superman's genes, had grown rapidly from his cloned body since birth, reaching the size of an adult human within 3 months. Enemies and even allies alike gazed upon him with monstrous eyes, fearing his superhuman strength. This was the first time Connor Kent had felt the insurmountable gap in strength between them, and felt the despair that washed over him from the depths of his heart. His despair wasn't due to the opponent's overwhelming strength, but rather the impossibility of even harming them, let alone defeating them. His unique contact telekinesis ability could disintegrate any object, yet it couldn't inflict any damage to the opponent's body. In other words, from the outset of this extraordinary battle, the opponent had been undeniably undefeated. Even if the opponent stood still and attacked him, there was no chance of him defeating him. This was what truly filled Connor Kent with despair. What? You've given up? In vibranium vision mode, Nian lowered his gaze, gazing at Connor Kent, who was suspended by his one-handed grasp. He had just wanted to see what special abilities the other person, a Superman clone, possessed. That telepathic ability still surprised Nian. It had a faint resemblance to the Omega effect. Of course, it was only a partial display of similar effects. In reality, it wasn't even a low-end Omega effect. However, this ability could easily break the defenses of even the likes of Black Panther and the Hulk. What a shame, he had to face him. Nian felt sorry for Connor Kent. His greatest strength had always been defense. Nian's first permanent ability, derived from Kara, Supergirl, a true Kryptonian, was the perfect Man of Steel. Unfazed by kryptonite, his Man of Steel was practically immune to physical damage. Beings weaker than a single cosmic force couldn't possibly sustain physical damage. And over 4 years ago, Nian acquired another defensive permanent ability, energy immunity. That was his 8th permanent ability. Literally, it granted him complete immunity to energy attacks of any form or nature. A body of steel combined with energy immunity. Nian often lamented that if he were to encounter Darkseid again, facing the Omega FX rays wouldn't be so difficult. And now, still in vibranium vision mode, not only does Nian possess dual permanent defensive abilities, but he also benefits from the physical and energy protection inherent in vibranium, as well as Alice's visionary psychic resistance. A body of steel, energy immunity, vibranium armor, psychic resistance. Nian dared to say it. While his current form wasn't the strongest in the universe, it was certainly the most defensively proficient entity in the universe. Do you want to continue? At Nian's words, Connor Kent dropped his hands in bewilderment, his handsome face pale and dejected. How could he possibly fight? You just said you'd only cripple my legs and leave me alive, right? A flash of white lightning flashed in Nian's eyes. That sentence saved your life? In that case, I'll spare yours. As soon as the words fell, Vibranium Vision's eyes blazed with crimson energy beams, two of which, like long swords, struck Connor Kent's arms. A swish. Blood and laser light intertwined and exploded, and Connor Kent screamed. Soon, his two intact arms fell to the ruins, their blood evaporated by the lasers before they could even shed. He loosened his grip and tossed Connor Kent to the ground. He knew Connor Kent wasn't an outright villain, more like a transcendent adult child. After all, he was less than 3 years old. But he still needed to pay the price for his missteps. It's over. Hundreds of meters away, on the rooftop, the Junior League members watched the abrupt end of the extraordinary battle, their minds still reeling. After all, it had ended so quickly. Connor Kent hadn't been able to hold out for long. The Superman gene, defeated. Nightwing Dick and Damian Wayne exchanged a look of shock and uncertainty, each secretly thankful they weren't their antagonists, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to devise any countermeasures. Jonathan Kent, watching the defeated Connor Kent, both hands gone, felt a pang of pain. Though furious that Connor Kent, possessing half the Superman gene, had engaged in the illegal activities of the Hellfire Club, Jonathan felt even more deeply grieved for his family's misfortune. With his fate now in tatters, it effectively ended his feud with the Superman family. He looks more and more familiar. Where have I seen him before? Jonathan Kent muttered, gazing intently at the silver-haired young man on the battlefield ruins. He felt a strange sense of familiarity. As if sensing his gaze, the silver-haired young man on the ruins looked up and glanced toward the rooftop. Jonathan Kent quickly descended from the guardrail, feeling a strange sense of guilt. The dust cleared, and the Junior League members finally got a clear look at the mysterious young man's face. His youth surprised even the usually calm Nightwing Dick. How come I haven't heard Mr. Bruce mention someone of such extraordinary stature before? Nightwing Dick pondered. Impressive. Wonder Girl Cassie's eyes, bright as stars, twinkled. She pressed her clasped hands against her heaving chest and exclaimed, I've discovered I've fallen for him. Huh? Nightwing Dick, Damian Wayne, and little Jonathan Kent, the three male members of the Junior League, looked at Wonder Girl curiously. Cassie, are you serious? Is this your first time meeting each other? I don't understand the world of adults. You're a kid, it's normal for you not to understand. Wonder Girl tapped little Jonathan's head with a finger. She was not shy either, and said passionately and unrestrainedly, what we Amazons respect most is fighting power. When we look for a partner, we naturally have to find someone stronger than ourselves. Coincidentally, he is also my type. From the first time I saw him, my heart beat fast. This is what your human world calls love at first sight. I've decided, I'm going to pursue him. Marry him as my husband. The blonde girl clenched her fists wrapped in golden gloves, and her tough and straightforward words stunned a 5-year-old Jonathan Kent. Cassie. The woman is the one to marry, not marry. It's all the same. The magical girl casually waved her golden right hand. The excitement and blush on her exquisite face had not faded yet. Her delicate body wrapped in a red strapless dress was eager to move, and she looked like she was about to step forward and strike up a conversation with full of fighting spirit. Chapter 455, Old Guy, his Nian Prince. Seeing that Wonder Girl wasn't joking, but was genuinely attracted to her and planning to pursue her, Nightwing and Damian Wayne exchanged bewildered glances. Could heathen gods fall in love at first sight? They knew Wonder Girl was descended from true divine blood. In Greek mythology, she was the granddaughter of Zeus. I can actually understand Cassie, Starfire said, blushing slightly. She's certainly attractive. If I didn't already have someone I liked, I might even be competing with Cassie. Oh, you already have someone. Another commotion erupted within the Junior League, leaving Starfire's orange face as pale as a ripe apple. Hey, my back feels a little cold, Wonder Girl Cassie muttered, feeling an inexplicable chill down her spine. Clearly, only Raven was standing behind her. Are they coming too? Nian, in his vibranium vision mode, turned his gaze from the rooftop and said to Alice, not far away. Wait here for me. I'm going to meet someone I know. I'll be back soon. He threw those words. He ignored Connor Kent, who collapsed on the ground, and took off from the spot, breaking the sound barrier and disappearing into the night sky in a streak of silver light. On the rooftop, watching Nian fly away, Wonder Girl couldn't help but sigh in disappointment. Why did he leave? Nightwing Dick took a deep breath and said, let's go down first and make sure Jean is safe. Okay. The others nodded. They didn't notice that Raven, the hooded girl among the group, who usually showed no interest in anything, followed the young man's figure as he walked away. New York, a large, luxurious, independent mansion in the suburbs. Inside, the lights were brightly lit. A clatter. A private helicopter landed on the rooftop of the luxurious manor. From the helicopter emerged only two men and a woman in a leopard coat. As soon as Jilly returned, he hurried down the stairs to the main hall below. Passing through a corridor covered in a gorgeous red carpet, Jilly quickly straightened his appearance, returning to his gentlemanly demeanor in a suit. He stopped at the main hall door and knocked. "Come in," a commanding yet cold female voice rang from within. Jilly finally pushed the door open and entered. Inside, beneath a star-like artistic chandelier, sat a woman who looked like a work of art. She had voluptuous, slightly curly blonde hair, flowing freely over her shoulders and back. Her eyes were bright, her nose was high, and her lips were a fiery, alluring red. She wore a white dress that accentuated her exquisite figure. Her long, graceful legs, clasped together, formed a single, mature curve as she leaned back on the sofa. Her eyes were sharp and commanding, and she exuded a commanding presence, the air of someone in a superior position. Her skin was white and smooth, gleaming like a diamond under the light. She was a flawless piece of body art. At that moment, the woman in the white dress raised her eyes and gave Jilly a cold, dignified look. "Are you all back?" A flicker of admiration flashed in Jilly's eyes, but he quickly hid it. He said respectfully, "Except for the Red Devil, who went after the target first, and Deathstroke, who took the hireling and left, Fireman, I, and that other person are all back." The woman in the white dress nodded and said, "Since Connor Kent has been there, he should be back with the target soon." Jilly hesitated, then gritted his teeth and said, "Boss, this thing has gotten a bit serious. I'm afraid other heroic teams will intervene. You should move your residence. Also, Connor Kent, he's certainly powerful, but I still feel like he's a ticking time bomb here." Jilly continued with all his might, "Lately, he's developed some ideas of his own. I'm afraid one day he'll hurt you." The woman in the white dress looked at Jilly with a slightly cold gaze. "Are you telling me how to do things?" "I wouldn't dare. I'm just suggesting it," Jilly said hurriedly. "I understand. You can go down first." The woman in the white dress waved her hand. "Okay." Jilly breathed a sigh of relief. He turned around and was about to leave when the window shattered in the main hall. "What?" Jilly turned around in surprise and saw a mysterious silver-haired young man, his body suspended in midair, stepping nonchalantly into the main hall from outside. "You are..." The woman in the white dress was also startled. "Long time no see. Should I call you the White Queen, or Emma Grace Frost, or now the Black and White King of the Hellfire Club?" The silver-haired young man said, taking the initiative and sitting down naturally on a sofa. White Queen Emma was silent. Her eyes were complicated, and she gripped the armrests tightly. She said, "Jilly, you go out first." Jilly looked at the silver-haired young man with caution and said urgently, "But I can feel that he is very dangerous. More dangerous than number 13. I told you to go out." White Queen Emma said coldly. "Yes." Jilly gritted his teeth unwillingly, finally obeying the command and turning to leave. As he was about to exit the main hall, he suddenly turned back in a rage. "Die!" Jilly swung his hands violently, and a whirlwind of air quickly formed in the room, transforming into a small tornado powerful enough to shred the tables and chairs as it hurtled towards the young man sitting in a chair. "No." The White Queen's face changed. But it was too late. As the tornado swept through, the silver-haired young man merely glanced at it, and two beams of energy instantly pierced its center. Buzz! The tornado dissipated midstream, causing a tremor in the main hall. The gentleman wailed and flew backward, knocking open the half-open wooden door of the main hall and tumbling into the corridor outside. The silver-haired young man said seriously, "He was the one who started it. I've always been a reasonable person." "What happened?" The fire figure in the corridor outside was stunned when he saw Jilly flying out of the main hall. "Don't come in." The White King's voice trembled from the main hall. "Everyone stay outside. No one is allowed to enter without my order." In the main hall, White Queen Emma's half-exposed, snow-white flesh rose and fell. She knew that the young man before her was not like other superheroes. He could truly transcend the many rules of this world. "I didn't expect you to be alive, Wonder Woman's adopted son, Nian Prince." The White Queen stared at the silver-haired young man in the chair and slowly exhaled. 5 years ago, she had joined forces with others to investigate the man's life and death. As a result, she was severely punished by the Crimson Lolita maid in the villa and almost died. Chapter 456, Past Grudges, Goodbye White Queen. The White Queen has a secret she refuses to share. As the current mastermind behind the Hellfire Club, the King of Black and White, she nearly died in another mirror world 5 years ago. Her opponent, a seemingly weak young woman, had rendered her defenseless. In the moment of confrontation, she lost consciousness. If she hadn't ultimately abandoned her in a trash can outside New York, instead of killing her, how could she now be the king of the Hellfire Club? And that red-haired young woman was merely a maid, serving the young man in question. Gazing at the young man leisurely seated on the sofa, the White Queen took a deep breath, her towering, alluring breasts rising and falling. She clearly understood the gap between herself and the other party, and the power. While the Hellfire Club's current prestige is among the highest in the world, with even the militaries of major powers seeking cooperation, the White Queen knew full well that the rules of the supernatural world resemble those of the animal world, the survival of the fittest, and strength reigns supreme. And the young man currently known as Nian Prince stands at the pinnacle of this supernatural world. In vibranium vision mode, Nian's appearance changed, his silver vibranium skin transforming back to that of a normal human. He crossed his legs and snapped his fingers. Is this how you entertain guests at the Hellfire Club? Why don't you have a cup of coffee? Are you a guest? At most, just an uninvited guest. Although White Queen Emma wanted to respond like this, she forced herself to hold back. She stood up from her chair and went to make coffee with her proud posture. Faced with a young man who was even more powerful than herself, her previous dominance disappeared. Add some milk, Nian reminded. White Queen Emma's hand trembled slightly as she poured hot water. She bit her lower lip and endured it. Outside the corridor of the manor villa. What the hell just happened in the main hall back there? The non-mainstream young fireman was in doubt. He watched the falling Jilly fly out. He turned around and looked at a corner in the corridor behind him. Aren't you going in to take a look, King? A woman in a leopard print coat leaned against the corner of the corridor. Her mature and slender figure blended into the darkness like a hunter, her eyes gleaming with a faint, ferocious green. The outside world believed that the Hellfire Club had only one king, the King of White and the King of Black. Only those with them knew. The Hellfire Club actually had two kings. One was the publicly visible, behind-the-scenes ruler, Emma the White King. The other was this current one. She had always hidden in the darkness of the world, the Black King of the Hellfire Club. Did you hear her? Don't go in, the Black King said coldly. A moment later, Emma the White Queen sauntered back to her chair. She lowered her body, revealing half her white skin, and handed over a cup of steaming coffee. She looked at the young man with a slightly cold gaze. Aren't you afraid I'll poison you? You can try, Nian winked, encouraging him to take the plunge. He truly wanted to know if the poison would have any effect on him now. White Queen Emma turned her face away, feeling she lacked the confidence of a king in front of him. The coffee ingredients are good. Nian reached out to take the coffee, sniffed it gently, and then took another sip. He couldn't help but shake his head and said, "There's too much milk, and the water temperature is wrong, it's a bit too hot. You need more practice. How can you be the underground king if you can't even make coffee?" White Queen Emma was speechless. In the past, she had always been flattered and feared by others. In recent years, politicians, chaebols, the military, and so on, had been courting her. This was the first time the White Queen had made coffee for someone, and they actually complained about her poor quality? If it were anyone else, the White Queen would have been furious. But Nian was just speaking the truth. Over the past 5 years, after being accustomed to Alice and Wanda's coffee, her taste had really become picky. You didn't come here just to humiliate me, did you? The White Queen suppressed her anger. That's right. Nian put down his coffee and said seriously, then let's settle the old scores. The White Queen Emma's cold face froze. Without saying a word, she sat back on the sofa, a little stiffly. I remember. 8 years ago, you were also there on the Grand Era, and were you one of the masterminds of that incident? Also, 5 years ago, you broke into my house once. Nian blinked. In fact, this was the first time Nian had seen the White Queen. The first time was on the Grand Era, when Nian was in a coma due to the Raven's ability. As for the second time, Nian was still lying in bed, not yet fully revived. However, His body would remember what had happened around him. Whether you believe it or not. The White Queen took a deep breath and replied, what happened 8 years ago was all planned by Lex Luthor. Many of our members at the time were basically going for the high salary money. Otherwise, who would have nothing to do and mindlessly destroy the world or go against heroes like Superman? The White Queen snorted, if he wasn't rich enough, I wouldn't be on his ship. She paused, gritted her teeth and said, as for that time 5 years ago, I did break into your house, but I was beaten out before I got in. I was beaten half to death. At this point, the White Queen felt that she was innocent. Anyway, you also had a good meal. Nian glanced at the White Queen. Not only did you get Lex Luthor's salary, but after his death, you also got the funds and team foundation he left behind. Even the clones he created with half of his own genes and half of Superman's genes were obtained by you. How do you know Connor Kent? White Queen Emma opened her beautiful blue eyes wide. I had a fight with him before I came here. Nian shrugged. Even if he didn't say who won or lost, the answer was already obvious. After all, Nian was sitting on the sofa here, and there was no news from Connor Kent. The White Queen was completely silent. She had originally thought of delaying time, waiting for Connor Kent to come back, and then cooperating with the Black King to perhaps resist the other party. Now, Nian directly shattered all her backups and fantasies. Tell me, what do you want? The White Queen closed her eyes, her scattered golden hair leaning on the sofa, and said resignedly, or, what do you want, Lex Luthor's legacy? The foundation of the Hellfire Club? I can give you whatever you want. So straightforward. Nian smiled indifferently. He stood up from the sofa, walked in front of the White Queen, stretched out his right hand, and grasped the other snow-white and delicate neck like a work of art. Everything, including you. Chapter 457 Heroes Gather Together. Nian is intimidating. White Queen Emma's beautiful body trembled slightly. The young man's hand on her slender neck felt cold and hard, like forged metal. Under the bright daylight in the main hall, the White Queen's exposed skin subconsciously shimmered. Wherever his hand touched, her snow-white, translucent skin transformed into diamond at a visible speed. Her slender neck, transformed into diamond, looked like an impeccable and expensive work of art, its beauty dazzling the eyes. Diamond-level defensive capabilities. Nian couldn't help but apply a little force, grasping the beauty's diamond-thin neck as if testing it. No. White Queen Emma's eyes flashed with panic. She sensed the hidden power in the cold hand, undoubting that he possessed the strength to penetrate her diamond physique. She had never imagined that after all these years, she still couldn't avoid a life where someone so easily controlled her life. Humiliated, the White Queen bit her lower lip and said, if you want it, I can give it to you. But then, forget it. Nian released the White Queen's slender neck, stepped back, and sat back on her sofa. Forget it, what do you mean? The White Queen's face froze again. She felt like the young man, several years her junior, had been toying with her. Forget it, I just don't want it anymore, Nian said casually. Forget it? I don't want it anymore. The White Queen felt a mixture of surprise and relief, yet also a strange anger. She was prepared to pay the price, so how could he just let it go? That was Lex Luthor's billions. The Hellfire Club controlled over half of the world's criminal underworld, even including a mutant beauty like herself. But to him, none of this seemed to hold much appeal. Just continue to be the White King. Nian took a sip from his coffee. Ups and downs, joys and sorrows. White Queen Emma was stunned for a moment. Even she hadn't known that her now mature and calm self could experience such rapid changes in mood. All of this was because of this young man, Nian Prince. So, what is your purpose in coming here? White Queen Emma couldn't help but ask again. My purpose? Can't we just have a cup of coffee? Nian smiled, setting down his empty cup. His goal had been achieved at that moment. Nian had come here primarily to check on the Hellfire Club and determine if there was any threat. If there was, he wouldn't mind using his vibranium vision mode to easily eliminate the Hellfire Club tonight. However, the Hellfire Club left Nian feeling a bit disappointed and unmotivated. The Hellfire Club, managed by the White Queen, wasn't a serious villain organization at all, just a well-known paranormal mercenary group. Therefore, there was no need to destroy them. It was like seeing a swarm of bees in your yard. While the buzzing noise might be annoying, it was indeed part of the fabric of the world. Indeed, in Nian's view, the Hellfire Club's existence was necessary and not necessarily a bad thing for Earth's current state. The Hellfire Club brought order and standardization to the chaotic paranormal world on the other side of the earth. The Hellfire Club's small-scale, profit-driven organization also served as a check and balance against the politicians and jibble of larger nations. So, after confirming that the Hellfire Club posed no significant threat to the Destiny Alliance, or even the world, Nian shifted his focus from destroying the Hellfire Club to deterring them. He wanted to let the Hellfire Club know he was watching them from behind the scenes, and they would behave accordingly. As for bringing the Hellfire Club under his wing, Nian had no such idea, believing the Hellfire Club was too weak to be of any use to his future enemies. The White Queen naturally didn't know that it was precisely because of the club's weakness that they had avoided this catastrophic disaster. It was also because Nian, in his view, considered the Hellfire Club useless that he said, "Forget it." New York, inside a hotel. The lights and security cameras in the central area of the street returned, as if it had only been a minor malfunction. Only the potholed, canal-riddled road and the sunken ruins of a sinking basin vaguely revealed what had happened. The Junior League members entered the battle zone to check for any civilians caught in the earlier battle and to ensure Jean Grey's safety. Jean. Nightwing Dick walked into the main lobby of the hotel's ground floor and saw a blonde girl curled up on a sofa, covered in a windbreaker, sleeping. He hurried forward. Before he could even reach the sofa, a petite, beautiful girl in a black and white maid's dress, like a silver-haired girl from a fairy tale, stopped him in his tracks. "Stop, Dick Grayson. You know my name." Nightwing's heart trembled. "That girl lying over there is my friend." Alice's face was expressionless, her voice clear and melodious. "I won't let you near her until the master returns." Nightwing's eyes narrowed slightly, and he asked warily, "Who are you? What do you want to do to Jean?" Alice didn't respond, her doll-like face expressionless. "Calm down, Dick." Starfire and the other members rushed over. "Why waste time talking to her? Take Jean away and evacuate this place first," Damian Wayne said coldly. He didn't believe a maid could be any fighting force. "I advise you not to do that." Wonder Girl stepped forward, her azure eyes reflecting the silver-haired girl. She took a deep breath and spoke, "I can sense she's very dangerous." "What?" Nightwing Dick and Damian Wayne were both shocked, but they had to trust the divinely born Wonder Girl's keen intuition. "She's clearly showing a combat power of only 7. Nightwing Dick glanced down at the combat power detector on his left wrist, only to find a series of codes popping up on the screen, indicating it was malfunctioning. Products from Future Chronicles must be top-notch. Such a malfunction is truly rare. Cassie is right. You're absolutely no match for her. Little Jonathan Kent stared at Alice, seeing something in his X-ray vision. He exclaimed in surprise, "She's actually..." At this moment, a spiritual thought suddenly sounded in the minds of the Junior League members Nightwing Dick and Damian Wayne. "Long time no see, two little robins." Nightwing Dick and Damian Wayne were stunned at first, and then they both showed an expression of great surprise, and said in unison, "Teacher Guan Luo, is that you?" "It's me." Along with the spiritual thought, a small glass jar rolled out from the dark red windbreaker covering Kin, and there was a one-eyed colorful starfish in it. Chapter 458, The First Generation of Robin, Nian's Identity? Many people outside the city know that after Batman returned to Gotham City 5 years ago, he began training a successor to fight crime. This successor was named Robin. Robin doesn't refer to a person, but rather a role, even representing the entire Batman family. Over the past 5 years, 4 Robins have appeared: Dick Grayson, the second Robin; Jason Todd, the third Robin; Tim Drake, the fourth Robin; and Damian Wayne, the fifth Robin, the son of the Wayne family. 6 months ago, Nightwing, the second Robin, and Damian Wayne, the fifth Robin, left Gotham City due to disagreements with Batman's ideals. These 2 Robins later founded the current Junior League team. This raises a question: while the second through fifth Robins are well known and frequently appear as heroes, fighting crime in various ways, the identity of the first Robin remains shrouded in secrecy. After all, the outside world has never seen the legendary first Robin. Some even suspect that the first Robin is Batman himself, using another heroic alias. Some say the original Robin never existed, a mere figure used to confuse others. Only the Robins in Batman's family know that the original Robin truly exists. He existed long before Batman founded the Justice League, serving as his right-hand man and close friend. He's not human. His name is Ken Lo. Not only did Lo help Batman immensely, he also served as a mentor to the Robins, teaching them telepathically how to fight and simulate combat. But 3 years ago, Lo disappeared from Gotham City, leaving the other Robins unaware of his whereabouts. Even today. Teacher Lo, it's really you. Nightwing Dick exclaimed excitedly at the glass jar that had fallen from Jean's windbreaker. Inside, the same colorful starfish he remembered, he saw the same thing. Teacher, you left Gotham without even telling us. Damian Wayne's usually stoic face was touched with emotion. Lo was their elder, their teacher, and even more, a family member. Aha, you two have grown up so much I almost didn't recognize you. Standing inside the glass jar, Lo blinked his clear blue eye, a hint of a smile playing across his face. The rest of the Junior League was baffled. Wonder Girl looked Lo up and down, her eyes widening in surprise as she asked, Dick, what do you call this starfish? Nightwing Dick said seriously, Mr. Lo is no ordinary starfish. He's a wise, knowledgeable hero with telepathic abilities. He's assisted the Justice League in fighting alien enemies. Oh, sorry, Wonder Girl stuck out her tongue. Damian Wayne quickly asked, Mr. Lo, you still haven't told me why you left Gotham City. Gotham City, that environment isn't suitable for long-term living. Lo spread his starfish tentacles. Besides, I didn't live in Gotham City to begin with. I went there just to help Batman train you temporarily. Speaking of living accommodations, the pristine artificial planets of the devouring dimension are far superior to the complex and chaotic outside world, especially Gotham City. Lo raised his one eye and looked at the two Robins. It's not entirely a bad thing for you to get out of Gotham City. At least it can broaden your horizons and experience, and allow you to see the world from a different perspective. Nightwing Dick and Damian Wayne glanced at each other and nodded. That's right, Nightwing Dick looked at Lo, then at Alice standing beside him. Teacher, why are you here? Ha, I forgot to tell you. Lo replied mentally, I follow the owner of this trench coat, Alice's owner. I'm a follower, I guess. Follower? Nightwing Dick and Damian Wayne were stunned. Teacher Lo, who even Batman Bruce Wayne considered a friend, was just an attendant of that mysterious young man? They found it hard to accept. Who is he? Starfire raised an eyebrow, asking the question on the minds of many of the Junior League members. That guy just now. Lo spread his hands and said, I don't know what he's thinking, but I won't reveal his identity anyway. If you want to know, you can go back and ask your elders. Lo deliberately glanced at the two Robins and little Jonathan Kent. He knows my father. Little Jonathan Kent opened his eyes wide in surprise. I think it's more than just knowing each other. Lo replied. Suddenly, Lo seemed to have sensed something, and his azure blue eye looked through the glass wall at the hooded girl who was standing at the back of the Junior League, with her head down and silent. Strange, the spiritual aura on you makes me feel inexplicably familiar. Lo's single eye narrowed slightly, as if sensing its telepathic observation. The hooded girl slowly raised her eyes, revealing a clean and fair little face and a pair of bright black eyes from the shadow of the hood. Those eyes did not reveal any emotions, like a corner of the night sky of the universe, and like a part of the abyss. Lo and the hooded girl looked at each other and soon understood what was going on. He said with hostility, so that's how it is. It's you. What are you doing back? The hooded girl continued to hide her face with her head down and did not respond. But at this moment, at the hotel entrance, a tall man with a red cape on his shoulders fell from the sky. He landed quickly and steadily, and his own force field fixed the surrounding space without stirring up any dust. On the chest of his blue battle suit was the S-shaped family totem. His muscles were perfectly displayed, and he exuded an aura. Mr. Superman. The Junior League members turned around and showed surprise when they saw each other. Good evening, everyone. Superman extended his hand and greeted him. He was not serious at all and nodded to Lo and Alice in particular. Superman's gaze fell on the dodging 5-year-old, his resolute face finally stern and majestic. Come back with me. But there's still the matter of the Hellfire Club. Jonathan Kent said, then paused. Connor Kent had vanished from the ruins beside the hotel. It's over, Superman said, stepping forward and hoisting Jonathan Kent onto his shoulder. Turning back to Alice, Superman said, since he's out, let him visit me soon, or I'll go to his house. Nightwing and the others were stunned again. Superman, one of Earth's most powerful superheroes, a mortal god, actually spoke with a hint of resentment and resentment? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 459, Girl's Heart, Phoenix Power. Outside the hotel, a sound barrier-breaking roar echoed as Superman and young Jonathan Kent departed. Apparently, Superman and the mysterious young man actually knew each other, and were quite familiar with each other. Before the Junior League could figure out their connection, a figure, accompanied by a shimmering flash of lightning, sprinted through the hotel entrance, stopping in the main lobby to reveal itself. It was a bearded man in his early 30s, clad in a full suit of red lightning armor. "Mr. Flash, you're here too," Nightwing exclaimed in surprise upon seeing him, then breathed a sigh of relief. Tonight's difficulties were finally over. Ever since they founded the Junior League, the Flash had provided countless practical assistance and advice. As a former member of the Justice League, a veteran and powerful hero, he was a figure they all admired. Long time no see, the Flash's gaze fell on Starfish, greeting his former teammate with a familiar hello. "Yes, long time no see," he nodded softly, a wave of emotion welling up in his own. 5 years had flown by in a flash. The Flash, once the most inexperienced member of the Justice League, has now become a mature and superior superhero, worthy of serving as a mentor to the Junior League. He exhaled slowly and smiled. "I was worried something might happen to these kids, so I rushed over. I didn't expect you to get involved." Guan Lua replied, "Just hanging out with that guy." "He's out too." Flash's eyes flickered with nostalgia. "It's been ages since we last met." He paused, then politely said to Alice, "Give your young master my regards." "I'll tell him," Alice agreed. "All right." The Flash glanced at the Junior League members in the main hall. "Come with me and leave?" "But, Mr. Flash, Chin in the Hellfire Club." Nightwing Dick wanted to say something else. The Flash shook his head. "Don't worry. Now that he's taken action, there's nothing for you and us to do." Tan Luo also spoke with his mind. "Little Dick, this girl is safest with us." Nightwing Dick hesitated. He didn't trust a mysterious young man, but he couldn't help but trust Tan Luo and the Flash. Nightwing Dick took one last look at Jean, who was curled up on the sofa, sleeping soundly under her windbreaker, and gritted his teeth and agreed, "Okay, let's get out of here." The Junior League prepared to follow the Flash. "I want to stay," Wonder Girl suddenly said. "Cassie, what are you staying for?" Starfire, anxious, quickly stepped forward and hugged her friend's left hand. "I have to see him and declare my feelings." Wonder Girl raised her handsome face, waved her right hand, clenched into a golden fist, her sapphire eyes gleaming with determination. "Can't we do it next time?" Starfire knew that with her friend's temperament and character, once she set her mind to something, no one could dissuade her. "I have to stay until I see him," Wonder Girl replied with stubborn determination. This. Nightwing Dick and Damian Wayne both felt a headache. "It's okay, let her stay," Flash suddenly said. Flash glanced at Wonder Girl and said to Ken Luo and Alice, "She might have some connection to your family there." Ken Luo's mental thoughts replied, "I'm just feeling a familiarity with her energy and aura." So, the Junior League finally decided to let Wonder Girl stay temporarily. But as Nightwing and the other members followed Flash out, Hooded Girl, like Wonder Girl, stood still. "Raven, are you?" Nightwing was stunned. "You guys go, I'll stay too," Raven whispered, without even looking up. Nightwing was completely stunned. In that moment, something clicked for him. "Let's go." Flash patted Nightwing Dick's shoulder. Nightwing Dick remained silent, following Flash's steps. Finally, of the original 6 members of the Junior League, only 3 remained, Nightwing Dick, Damian Wayne, and Starfire, and followed Flash out. Horizontal ellipsis. At this moment, in the manner of the Hellfire Club. In the Vibranium Vision mode, Nian sat on a chair with his legs crossed. In front of him was the White Queen who had recovered from her diamond physique. However, the current White Queen Emma bit her pale lower lip, looking dazed after being bullied, and completely lacked the aura of the Underground King before. "I have another question," Nian said casually. The White Queen took a deep breath. Although the other party said that he didn't want anything, she felt that she had been ridden under the other party and was in control of everything. "You say The White Queen M responded helplessly. Nian asked bluntly, I'm curious, why did you spend so much effort to get that blonde girl? It's very simple. The White Queen Emma also knew that from the moment the young man in front of them intervened, they would never be able to get Jean Grey again. So, she answered without reservation, that girl possesses an extraordinary ability, more than just telepathy. 4 years ago, when Qin's parents were in a car accident, Qin was in the back seat of that car. The White Queen spoke as she pressed a button, and a 3D projection suddenly lit up in the main hall. Nian looked over. It was playing a video recorded on a cell phone. The image quality was a bit blurry, but it was still clear. On a suburban forest road, a small jeep carrying a family of 3 was driving normally when it encountered an out-of-control truck at a corner. The jeep braked immediately, but it was powerless and collided violently with the oncoming truck. The moment the two vehicles collided, a brilliant flame shot up from the back seat of the small jeep, faintly forming a pair of flaming, ethereal wings. These wings enveloped the unconscious girl and hovered low over the road. Space and time seemed to freeze in that moment. As the ethereal wings of flame gently fluttered, everything around the girl disintegrated in the flames. The jeep, the couple inside, the truck, its cargo, everything was instantly reduced to ash by the ethereal flames. Nian raised a brow. He was in vibranium vision mode, able to reveal many mysteries that others could not understand through projected videos. Was that a phoenix? A flaming phoenix, yet without the slightest energy fluctuation. Instead, was it the mind influencing reality? This was a telepathic ability similar to Connor Kent's telepathic ability, yet infinitely superior. It was almost as powerful as Crimson Magic. No, in terms of destructive power alone, it might even be stronger. Chapter 460, The Prince family are actually relatives? Whoosh! Thousands of meters above New York's night sky, a towering man in a Superman suit carried a small boy on his back, soaring through the clouds, the airstream separated by an invisible force field. Father. Little Jonathan Kent looked up, his anger still lingering in his stern profile, and his surprise only deepened. This was the first time he'd seen his father so angry. Little Jonathan Kent couldn't help but ask, do you really know that vibranium robot and the young man accompanying Mr. Kinluo? Yes. Superman Clark nodded. Not only do I know him, you should know him too. Me. Little Jonathan Kent was stunned. He held you in his arms when you were very little, Superman Clark said. But he hasn't been here in years, so it's understandable that you don't remember. Huh? So he's familiar with our family. Little Jonathan Kent's eyes widened in astonishment. The fact that he'd held his son as a child meant that he knew not only Superman, but also his father, Clark, as a human. Clark, the Superman, really didn't want to admit he was close to that guy. After all, he'd assaulted him before and kidnapped his cousin without warning. Well, it was mainly the latter. Superman deadpanned, didn't I take you to my aunt's house before? You should have seen his picture there. Aunt Kara's house. Little Jonathan Kent thought quickly, his eyes widening before glazing over. Could it be him? During his visit to his aunt's house, he had indeed seen a photo of his aunt, a young student, posing intimately with a boy. It was just that the photo was taken 8 years ago, and the boy in the photo was still a teenager, delicate, with black hair, and so on. Thinking back, little Jonathan Kent could vaguely relate to the mysterious young man he had just seen, despite his silver hair, his handsome features, and regular features. So, here's my future uncle. Little Jonathan Kent was completely bewildered, feeling like he was facing a problem his age shouldn't have to face. Uncle? Wait until he shows up. Superman snorted, but he didn't admit it. Little Jonathan Kent's eye twitched slightly. He'd heard Aunt Karen mention him more than once or twice. And yet, when he saw him again, he didn't recognize him immediately. No wonder. I was saying, he felt strangely familiar. Little Jonathan Kent was mumbling, but then, as if remembering something important, his eyes widened. He remembered. Cassie had not only fallen in love at first sight with Wonder Girl, one of the League members, but was even going to confess her feelings? Oh no. Little Jonathan Kent panicked. Dad, can you please turn around? I have something I need to go back for. No. Superman replied seriously. If I don't go back now, not only you will be in trouble, but me too. Little Jonathan Kent. Washington, at the Flash's house. With the Junior League headquarters destroyed, the Flash temporarily took Nightwing and the other two back home. It wasn't really a home, more like a large, private underground laboratory. Take a good shower and rest. Look at what you've got. The Flash removed his red armor and helmet and hung it on a hanger inside. He turned and looked at the dusty Nightwings, who had experienced extraordinary battles. Nightwing Dick, Damian Wayne, and Starfire remained silent, as if they hadn't recovered from the recent events. Mr. Barry, you must know who that person is. Nightwing Dick suddenly looked at the Flash and pleaded, please, I hope you can tell us. Damian Wayne and Starfire, upon hearing this, also stared at the Flash inside. Barry Allen hesitated, then sighed. Even if I don't tell you, with your personalities, you'll find out some other way. In that case, I'll tell you. Flash Barry Allen spoke slowly. He's from the Prince family. Prince. Nightwing and the other two all had different expressions. Barry Allen nodded. Yes, including Kenluo and Alice, they're all from that family. Damian Wayne said quickly, Prince, I think I saw that name in my father. Batman's archives, in the Justice League superhero files. You mean Miss Diana Prince? Barry Allen mentioned her, replying respectfully. She was one of the earliest members of the Justice League, even before me, but she left after a while due to family reasons. She's also one of DC's most well-known superheroes, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman. The three junior leaguers had all heard of this famous heroine, even though these famous female superheroes hadn't appeared on the stage of the modern era for several years. Cassie, Wonder Girl from your junior league, gives me a strong impression of being Diana, Wonder Woman. Barry Allen spread his hands. There must be some connection between them. Perhaps it's the bloodline Cassie has been searching for. Nightwing and the other two were startled again. Wait a minute, Damian Wayne frowned. Mr. Barry, you haven't explained the specific relationship between that mysterious young man and the Prince family. His name is Nian Prince. Barry Allen, the Flash, smiled. He's the adopted son of Diana, Wonder Woman, and the current head of the Prince family. He's my friend, a very good man, a true hero. Achoo. Nian, sitting on the sofa in the Hellfire Club manor, couldn't help but sneeze. Strange. Not only in vibranium vision mode, but even in normal conditions, he wouldn't catch a cold with his current physique. Okay, it's time for me to go. Nian stood up from the chair and said casually to the White Queen, no need to see me off. If I'm free in the future, I'll come over for coffee. I hope your cooking skills will have improved by then. As he spoke, Nian broke away from gravity and flew towards the window of the manor building. When he was about to fly out of the window, Nian seemed to remember something and turned back to say, also, regarding the matter of the piano, I hope you can keep it a secret. As the words fell, the tall figure of the silver-haired young man had disappeared in the night outside the manor. Only the White Queen was left sitting alone on the chair in the main hall. The White Queen Emma lowered her head, looked at the empty cup left on the table in front of her, and couldn't help clenching her fists. He had always been so strong and kept suppressing her, but when it came to that girl, he showed a gentle side. This really made her angry and lost. Had she lost her charm? Chapter 461, Defeat the Young Man from Apocalypse starring Confess Your Love. Vibranium visions of Nian shattering gravity and soaring out of the manor at breakneck speed, carrying a gust of wind as he suddenly stopped 100 meters in the air, a kilometer away. Standing in midair, he gazed down, meeting a pair of narrow eyes shimmering with a faint green light in the dense forest below. Oh, you are. Nian's gaze flashed, and he soared down, landing on the grass beside a lake in the center of the forest. Coincidentally, a moon peeked out from behind the dark clouds in the night sky, casting a bright, cool, silvery light across the lake and the trees. Under Nian's gaze, a female figure, both voluptuous and wild, emerged from the shadows of the forest. The moonlight cast a seductive, mature figure on her body. Leopard Barbara stepped out on her bare toes, a half-black panther tail swaying from side to side. She wore revealing hot pants and a sports t-shirt, her golden curls cascading lazily over her shoulders. The indifferent green glint in Barbara's eyes faded. She approached Nian, her tail wagging joyfully, her leopard-like form docilely kneeling on one knee in the grass. My master. I've told you many times, you can call me Ob, like before, Nian said seriously. He was more accustomed to her former unruly, feral nature. Master. Barbara tilted her head, as if puzzled, with a hint of fear. Never mind, let it be, Nian sighed, reaching out to touch Barbara's delicate head, dotted with furry ears. Barbara didn't resist, but narrowed her eyes in obedience. If the Hellfire Club or Emma, the White Queen, had seen this, they would have been astonished. The story began 5 years ago. In Wakanda, Barbara had eaten heart-shaped grass, and her body had been taken over by the Black Panther goddess. After defeating the opponent in God King mode, Nian brought the unconscious woman back to the devouring dimension. Later, after consulting with Aunt Diana, Nian used the Mind Stone to suppress the Dark Goddess's mind and attempt to restore Barbara the Leopard. However, while Barbara the Leopard was restored, she had lost many of her memories and remained in her current state. Nian even used the Lasso of Truth to confirm the opponent's lies, but unexpected mental problems arose. I should have known that Aunt Diana released you so that she could also watch over the Hellfire Club, Nian shrugged. If I had known that, I wouldn't have made this special trip tonight. It still feels like and. Go back, Nian waved. A hint of reluctance flashed in Barbara's eyes. She turned, then vanished into the forest with incredible agility. It's time for me to go back too, Nian thought, looking up at the night sky. At the Flash's house. The Prince family, Xenian Prince. Nightwing muttered, then continued to ask Barry Allen, Mr. Barry, you said he's a superhero too? Why haven't I seen him before? What heroic titles has he had? How should I put it? Flash Barry Allen felt it was awkward to bring up the title of Silver God. He thought for a moment, then looked at Damian Wayne beside him. Damian, if you've read the Justice League's intelligence files, you should know something about the events of 5 years ago. The events of 5 years ago. Nightwing and Starfire immediately understood what the Flash was referring to. In other words, every person on Earth should know about the greatest invasion disaster in human history 5 years ago. The Flash incident that killed half of humanity. Of course I know, Damian Wayne said gravely. 5 years ago, to neutralize the potential threat on Apocalypse, the Justice League, led by Batman and Superman, formed a team of heroes, the most powerful on Earth, and marched to Apocalypse. Yes. Barry Allen, the Flash, clenched his fists, then unclenched them, a wry smile crossing his bearded face. You should also know what happened to us in the end. We failed. Damian Wayne's face etched with resentment. You failed. Nightwing and Starfire's hearts trembled. They naturally found it hard to imagine the Justice League losing. Damian Wayne, when he secretly read the Justice League's intelligence files, was also shocked. No matter how much he resented the man named Batman, he still yearned to become the hero. But that man, even a godlike being, had been defeated on Apocalypse 5 years ago, leaving him with almost no chance of resistance. Yes, we lost, completely. Barry Allen's expression betrayed a lingering sense of fear, before he breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness he's here. The 3 Junior League members were even more shocked upon hearing this. Nightwing Dick asked doubtfully, Mr. Barry, you mean? Barry Allen nodded in confirmation. No way. Damian Wayne's mouth dropped open in shock. 5 years ago, it was him who turned the tide, prevented the apocalypse, and successfully defeated Apocalypse. Alice. Upon returning to New York in vibranium vision mode, Nian spotted Alice alongside 2 other girls, each with their own distinct characteristics. One was a blonde in a strapless red dress. Her figure was well developed, and the tight, figure-hugging dress evoked a youthful yet captivating curve. Her eyes, glittering like stars, shone with youthful energy and drive. Her hands were adorned with golden gloves that resembled silver protective bracelets, but covered the entire palm of her hand, exuding a refined demeanor. A hint of suspicion flickered in Nian's eyes. He saw the shadow of another person in the other person. That energy, emanating from a certain system, wasn't similar, it was identical. An Amazon? As for the other girl, slightly shorter than the first one, with a young woman's build, she wore a gray-black hooded windbreaker, exuding a cold and mysterious aura. In vibranium vision mode, Nian quickly discerned some of her true nature. Are you the crow? No, should I say raven? Nian instinctively took a step back. Even in vision mode, he wasn't sure if he was immune to the other person's sleep. He was also afraid of it. He'd been put to sleep so many times before, in Gotham City and on the Grand Era. Raven pursed her thin lips, raised her helpless little face, and looked at him dimly. Are you serious about retreating? Do you know how much of a blow that would be to a crow? Raven, do you know each other? Wonder Girl Cassie was visibly stunned, But her hesitation only lasted a moment before she took a firm step forward, striding towards the silver-haired young man. No matter what, she must declare her feelings right now. Wonder Girl, never back down. Chapter 462 Wonder Woman is equal to Ant. Though not in Amazon, she had been trained as a warrior there. Coupled with the fact that she possessed half divine blood, Cassie, the Wonder Girl, was confident and powerful. She knew, no matter what, she could not retreat. This was a fateful battle. Expressing one's feelings wasn't inherently difficult, but some people complicated it. To confess one's feelings was to fight for a better future. The Wonder Girl had already made up her mind, but as she approached the young man, she couldn't help but feel a surge of nervousness, her heart pounding like a rabbit. It felt like the most daunting battle of her life. Who are you? In vibranium vision mode, Nian's gaze fell on the approaching blonde. Raven looked up at Cassie, his gray-black eyes as dark and cold as the night sky. My name is Cassie Cassandra. Actually, The Wonder Girl ignored her companion Raven's gaze. She clenched her fists, as if made of gold, a faint blush spreading across her beautiful face as she was about to declare her feelings. But then, tap. A tall, flawless female figure landed gracefully outside the hotel entrance, drawing the gazes of everyone in the main lobby. The silver moonlight shone softly on the woman like a veil, casting a sacred and noble aura, even making the silver crown atop her delicate head gleam. Her waist-length silver hair, each strand seemingly condensed from moonlight, cascaded down like a flowing waterfall. She wore a combat-inspired armored dress, her muscular torso practically fused with a tight-fitting armor. A pair of silver protective bracelets adorned her wrists. The woman's facial features were impeccable, as if sculpted by a deity. Even more remarkable was her aura. She carried a hint of battle ferocity, yet remained elegant. She possessed a comforting, reassuring serenity, yet exuded a profound nobility. If Nightwing Dick from Junior League were still here, he'd definitely recognize her. She was none other than the most famous and powerful female superhero from a few years ago, Wonder Woman. Former member of the Justice League, Wonder Woman, Diana Prince. Of course, despite the passage of time, Wonder Woman's flawless features remained untouched by the passage of time. Her hair had only grown longer, having turned from black to moon white. Beneath her silver crown, some of her previously loose hair had been woven into a headband, slightly encircling her delicate head, adding a touch of sophistication and elegance. Her original red-gold armor had been given a stylish, loose-fitting collar, and her short blue skirt had been replaced with a calf-length dress. A classic silver longsword slung across her slender back, and a smaller golden sword hung from the waistband of her vest. On her slender left hand, 2 rings adorned her middle and ring fingers, the former a silver crown, the latter a more ordinary, street-style ring. The perfect combination of strength and beauty perfectly suited her. Why are you here? Nian felt strangely guilty before the woman who had arrived. Miss, Alice bowed respectfully. Upon seeing her, Raven's gray-black eyes flashed with a strange color. As for Wonder Girl Cassie, who was about to confess her feelings, she stared blankly at the woman who appeared before her. The divine blood flowing in their bodies, the shared divine energy, made her realize that she was the one she had been searching for. Wonder Woman Diana's eyes immediately fell on the young woman. She strode gracefully into the hotel lobby and said unhappily, "Why? You can escape, but I can't." "Auntie, that's not what I meant." Nian blinked. "I'm surprised you showed up just as I was thinking of you. That's not proper." Wonder Woman stopped before Nian, extended her slender, radiant right hand, and tapped his forehead with her fingers. "Auntie?" Wonder Girl Cassie stared at the intimate scene, momentarily unresponsive. "Won't you introduce me to your new friend?" Wonder Woman Diana glanced at them. "Actually, not really a friend." Nian touched his nose and introduced them. "The girl lying on the sofa is Jean Grey. She was captured by the Hellfire Club, and I saved her. The one next to her, this is Raven. I met her in Gotham a few years ago. Don't bother with her." Nian quickly glanced over. "Raven. As for this one." Nian's gaze fell on Wonder Girl and he paused. "I didn't catch it. What did you say your name was when you came here?" Cassie Cassandra," Wonder Girl whispered, raising her azure eyes, a hint of panic, to meet Wonder Woman's gaze. Wonder Woman Diana's beautiful eyes reflected the girl's figure and asked in surprise, "Could you be Oxy?" Wonder Girl Cassie finally couldn't help herself. Her eyes misted with tears as she threw herself into Wonder Woman's arms. "Cousin, I finally found you." "Huh?" Nian's eyes were filled with surprise. He had just sensed a resemblance between the other person's aura and Wonder Woman's, and the gloves and equipment seemed to be from the Amazon. But he hadn't expected that the other person was his aunt's sister? Sister-in-law? Wait. Nian pulled Wonder Girl Cassie out of Diana's arms and asked curiously, "And why haven't I heard you have a sister? I haven't seen her before when I went to Paradise Island." It's a long story. I'll tell you later," Diana said softly, "but she is indeed my sister, half-sister." "Okay then." Nian finally let go of Wonder Girl. "I came out to find you. Are you going back now?" Diana asked gently, looking at Nian. Nian knew that his aunt was referring to the devouring dimension. And his aunt had always been like this, not forcing him, but letting him make his own choices. Nian thought for a moment and said, "And, for some reason, I'd like to stay out of town for a while." Diana and Nian looked at each other. After so many years together, they understood each other without words. "I understand. You can stay out there for now. It just so happens that there's something about the outside world you might want to know about." Nian nodded in agreement without asking. Nian glanced sideways at Jean, who was curled up on the sofa, sound asleep. "And, take her in. She'll be safe there." If the power she possessed was even more formidable than the source of the scarlet magic, then Jean's future would likely be targeted by more than just the lowly Hellfire Club. Nian vaguely imagined the presence of a powerful enemy. The very existence of these hostile entities was an abyss that today's humanity, and even young superheroes, could barely even glimpse. Chapter 463 Sister-in-Law, The Raven That Repays Gratitude? "No problem, I'll make it all right." Wonder Woman Diana stepped forward, scooping up Jean's petite frame. She addressed Wonder Girl Cassie, who was standing beside her, saying, "Xiaoxi, come with me." Wonder Girl was still a little dazed, having never expected to suddenly find the family she'd been searching for. Cassie readily agreed, "Yes, sister." Then, puzzled, Cassie asked, "Where are we going?" Wonder Woman Diana's eyes shone, and she smiled faintly, "You'll find out in a moment." After Wonder Woman left with Jean and Cassie, the hotel lobby was completely deserted, with only a few people remaining, including Nian. Nian yawned, stretched, and said to Alice, "Alice, let's go too." "Yes, master." Alice, a normal-sized woman, picked up her magic levitation cloak, donned her jar, and followed Nian out into the night. Both master and servant pretended not to notice the hooded girl, the lone figure standing in the lobby. Raven tilted her head slightly, her black eyes, misty as they gazed at the retreating young man, standing alone. Horizontal ellipsis. Nian and Alice, the master and servant, arrived at a 3-story villa on the outskirts of Washington. This was the Prince family's home 5 years ago. It was also where Nian had lain for 3 years. After the war with Apocalypse ended 5 years ago, Nian, after consulting with Aunt Diana, relocated the Prince family to the depths of the devouring dimension. Thus, the place remained completely unused. Of course, Alice had always arranged for a large white robot to guard and maintain it, so even after returning 5 years later, the table, chairs, blankets, and water cups remained unchanged. Alice, a silver-haired girl in a black and white maid dress, controlled the lights with her mind and pulled out her slippers. "Master, go take a shower first. I'll prepare the blankets for your room, and then you can rest." Nian nodded, glancing out a window before heading to the bathroom. After showering and changing into his pajamas, Nian emerged from the second-floor bathroom to find a heavy snowfall. Snowflakes cascaded down from the night sky, blurring the view beyond. "Master, the room is ready." Alice stepped forward and whispered, "She's still outside." "Alice, turn off the lights and go to bed," Nian called out, entering his second-floor room. "Yes, master." Not long after, the villa's lights went out. Outside, the winter night deepened, and the snow fell heavier, blanketing the world in a thick blanket of white. A petite figure stood outside the villa's courtyard, motionless like a statue in the cold wind, her hooded cape, like black wings, gradually covered by the snow. An unknown amount of time passed. It was late at night. Nian turned over in his bed. He opened his eyes. A cold wind, shrouded in frost, lashed the window. The snow continued to fall. Idiot. Nian sighed and continued to close his eyes, But he couldn't fall asleep even after tossing and turning. You did it on purpose, didn't you? Nian gritted his teeth and finally got up from the bed. He turned on the light and ran downstairs in his slippers. As soon as the door opened, a howling cold wind blew in with frost and snow. I owed you in my last life, didn't I? Nian said to the outside of the yard. At this time, the snow outside the yard was already higher than the calves. The hooded girl with a lolly-like figure was standing outside the yard. She looked like a snowman, with a layer of snow piled on her shoulders and above her hood. Raven raised her pale face when she heard Nian's voice. It's me, she whispered. What? Nian didn't understand what she meant. It's me, I owe you. Raven repeated seriously. Is it because of what happened before? Nian asked. Raven nodded slightly. Nian recalled how, 8 years ago, when he had entered super body mode, he had helped Raven free its imprisoned seal. He said sincerely, you don't have to repay me. Now that you've been freed, you should return to your own dimension. Raven didn't respond, simply staring at him quietly, with a mysterious stubbornness. Come in first. Nian sighed helplessly, making way for the Raven. The hooded girl nodded, shaking her body like a raven, shaking off the white snow, then stepped into the villa. The next morning, her eyelashes fluttered slightly, and Kin opened her jewel-like eyes. A look of bewilderment crossed her doll-like face. She stood up and looked around, finding herself lying on a luxurious bed. The private room she was in was even more luxurious and spacious, even more stunning than anything Kin had seen in aristocratic films. An exquisite classical chandelier hung from the ceiling, and the floor was covered with a comfortable, textured carpet. Kin noticed that she had also been changed, wearing a new, comfortable pair of long pajamas. A slight breeze blew a corner of the large curtains in the room. Kin, as if realizing something, quickly got out of bed, stepped barefoot onto the carpet, and moved forward to draw the curtains aside. Where is this? Kin opened her mouth slightly. A lofty view greeted her. Looking down, she could see vast forests, lakes, meadows, and snow-capped mountains. The sky, reaching for the stars, was a pure pale blue. The sunlight was eerily gentle, not even glaring. A magnificent waterfall cascaded from the nearby mountain, mist rising from the water, a rainbow of light lingering above it. A majestic building, resembling a sacred church, sat atop the highest peak. The breathtaking beauty was like something from a fairy tale or myth. Kin was stunned, completely forgetting the fear of the unfamiliar surroundings. Knock knock. The door swung open from the outside. A woman in a red dress entered, her voice clear and melodious. Are you awake? Kin looked back, startled again. What a beauty. Kin marveled inwardly. Although the fully grown, magical girl Cassie she had met before was also a true beauty, her aura was a bit lacking. But the one who appeared before Kin was clearly a true beauty. She had a unique, natural crimson hair. Standing at least 5 feet 7 inches, she wore a form-fitting red dress that barely concealed her curvaceous figure. Her exposed white skin contrasted with the crimson, and her aura, cultivated by her aristocratic background, was like autumn maple leaves swaying in an intoxicating, mature crimson. Kin, too, could not read the crimson woman's mind. Through her mind-reading ability, she could sense an invisible crimson lingering around her, carrying a dangerous aura. The crimson woman spoke. Hello, my name is Wanda Prince, one of the housekeepers here. Wanda Prince. Jean muttered, and asked with wide eyes, why am I here? Wanda replied softly, have you forgotten? I heard that it was the young master who saved you. Young master. Jean slowly remembered what happened last night. She ran to the streets of New York, fell down, and met a young man. Although she couldn't see his face clearly, the embrace was very warm, so warm that she fell asleep immediately. Oh, could she actually fall asleep in the arms of a stranger of the opposite sex? Jean's little head was a little dazed, and her little face immediately became hot. Chapter 464 The Second Maid, Resurrection of the Dead. Recalling last night's events, Jean felt a little embarrassed. She had always considered herself much more mature than her peers, but in front of the young man, she acted like a child not even 10 years old. Miss Wanda, may I ask where this is? Jean quickly changed the subject, glancing around the room. Through the open door, she could see a spacious, bright hallway covered with fine carpets that stretched all the way to the corner. The mansion was astonishingly large. The opulence and grandeur were palpable, while a quiet, settled atmosphere permeated the air. An atmosphere that evoked genuine peace and solemnity. This is our prince family's base. It's the safest place in the world, bar none, Wanda said confidently. After all, this place doesn't exist on Earth, or even in the outside universe. It's a truly independent microcosm, a closed-loop space. Furthermore, this is also the headquarters of the Destiny Alliance. If this isn't safe, then nowhere else is. Miss Diana has instructed us, Wanda said softly, you can stay here as long as you like. As if sensing the girl's embarrassment, Wanda added, it's free, all you can eat and sleep. With Future Chronicles resources, it could support an entire planet. Adding a girl like Jean wouldn't affect anything. Ah, how can this be? Jean's adorable eyes widened, and she quickly waved her hands. You saved me, and I haven't repaid you yet. I'm already embarrassed, so how can I stay here? Miss Diana said. Wanda smiled, since the young master rescued you, I will definitely do it to the end. Seeing that Jean was about to refuse, Wanda continued, if you leave now and get caught again, then all my efforts will be in vain. This. Jean hesitated, then, as if making a decision, she suddenly turned and ran back into her room. Wanda was just beginning to wonder when she saw the blonde girl make her bed, smoothing out the wrinkles on the quilt and pillow with her tiny hands. She stood on tiptoe, struggling to hang the curtains high. Phew. After finishing, Zayakan finally got out of bed. Wanda said, I'll take care of this later, or I'll send a robot. Miss Wanda, I can't just stay here for free. Kin took a deep breath, her delicate face filled with determination. She patted her chest and said, your family is so large, you must be in need of servants, right? Don't look at my young age, I'm very capable and can do anything. The blushing woman's delicate and beautiful face was dazed at the words. Wanda looked at the young and determined Kin, who reflected so much of her past. Back then, she had been rescued by the young master. Looking back now, it was still the luckiest thing that had ever happened to her. Later, the young master let her stay at the prince's house, and to protect her pride and feelings, he made her a maid. Miss Wanda. Jean's questioning call brought Wanda back from her reminiscence. She looked at Jean, not refusing. After a moment's thought, she said, about this, you'd better think it over carefully. Being a maid in the prince family isn't easy. And once you do, it'll be hard to regret it. Wanda's beautiful face took on a rare solemnity. Jean tilted her head, her fluffy blonde hair falling. She couldn't help but ask, Miss Wanda, do you regret ever becoming a maid in the prince family? Did she regret becoming a maid in the prince family? A smile played on Wanda's lips, and she replied confidently and calmly, no. Despite all the hardships she'd endured as a maid, how could she possibly regret it? Then I'll join. Please give me a chance, Jean said without hesitation, her eyes bright. At that moment, she couldn't read minds, and didn't have much knowledge or understanding of the prince family. But Jean's intuition told her that this was the right thing to do, or perhaps, that this was her destiny. I remind you again, if you're a guest, I'll take good care of you. Wanda's rosy eyes reflected the girl's figure as she spoke in a deep voice. But if you choose this path, I will train and assess you rigorously. It will be 1,000 times more difficult and painful than the previous one. Jean clenched her fists and responded earnestly, no matter how difficult it is, I will definitely strive. In that case, as the head maid of the prince family, I'll give you a chance, follow me. Wanda said, turning and heading out into the corridor. Jean quickly put on her slippers and followed. She looked at the crimson-colored woman walking ahead and suddenly asked curiously, Miss Wanda, how many servants are there in the prince family? Why don't I see anyone else? Wanda continued walking slowly ahead, not looking back. She replied calmly, if you successfully pass the assessment, you'll be the second maid here. Washington, a suburban villa. Outside the window, the mountains and town were draped in a new silver veil, gleaming dazzlingly in the sunlight. Nian woke up from his bed, dark circles under his eyes, clearly having not slept well the previous night. It wasn't just because of the crow. His aunt, through the dimensional ring, had informed him of a strange event taking place in the outer world. He slipped on his slippers, stood up, and walked to the curtained window, gazing out at the snow-covered world. Aunt Diana mentioned that recent tests by the Destiny Alliance had revealed that several humans who had perished in the flash incident 5 years prior had reappeared in his home. It was like the dead had risen again. Nian breathed a sigh of relief. In reality, He had spent the past few years contemplating how to resurrect half of the human race that had perished 5 years earlier. This was a promise he had made to some members of the Destiny Alliance. In theory, it was simple. All he had to do was recover his 7th permanent ability, Imagination Creation, and gather all 6 Infinity Stones to perform a powerful snap. Unfortunately, the 7th permanent ability seemed to have never existed. Since using it on Apocalypse, Nian had lost it. Whether this was a side effect of the Infinity Gauntlet snap or a curse from Darkseid remained unknown. Nian was eager to achieve this goal. After fulfilling this promise, he could then go all out and move on to something else. "Boss, you must still be alive, right?" Nian muttered to himself, a domineering and proud green-haired figure emerging in his mind. He remembered that Boss Polaris had always been like this, always disappearing inexplicably, leaving him to find him. Nian shook his head, putting his thoughts aside and thinking about the resurrection incident mentioned by Aunt Diana. Could it be that someone had surpassed him and found a way to resurrect half of humanity? Chapter 465, Raven's Crow, heading to Gotham. "Jin, do you know what it takes to become a maid in the Prince family?" In response to Wanda's words, Kin humbly asked, "Miss Wanda, please tell me." "It must be all round," Wanda said. "Not just in every field of knowledge in the outside world, but in every field of knowledge, reaching a high level, including but not limited to, housekeeping, etiquette, mathematics, philosophy, physics, chemistry, biology, aeronautics, psychology, combat, shooting." Kin's adorable eyes gradually widened. "From now on, I will teach you all of the above." Wanda lowered her gaze at Kin and said calmly, "From now on, you can also call me teacher." "Yes, teacher," Kin replied crisply. Washington, suburban villa, 2nd floor room. "Master, you're awake." A silver-haired girl in a black and white maid outfit walked in and bowed to Nian, who was standing at the window. "Breakfast has been prepared for you." "Yes," Nian nodded. 12 hours later, he had exited vibranium vision mode and returned to his normal, dark-haired appearance. Nian seemed to recall something and asked, "That guy, what's up?" Alice said, "I think you should go out and see." Nian washed up, changed into a new outfit with Alice's help, and then went downstairs. In the main hall of the villa, on the dining table, a young woman, draped in her usual gray-black cloak and hooded indoors, sat upright in a chair. Breakfast was laid out on the table in front of her, though the bread and milk were clearly untouched. Hearing Nian coming downstairs, the hooded girl raised her face, her dark eyes fixed on him. "You don't like these?" Nian asked, taking a seat at the dining table on the other side. Alice quickly presented him with a breakfast. Raven shook his head. "You wouldn't eat bugs, would you?" Nian exclaimed in shock. Raven stared at him blankly, completely unable to grasp his cheesy joke. "Okay," Nian shrugged. "You're not a normal crow either. You ate souls before, too." Nian casually picked up a piece of cheese bread and took a bite. Then, the raven followed suit, lifting her hands and taking a small bite of the bread from the table. She took a small bite, swallowing it and continuing to bite. Although each bite was small, she swallowed without chewing, quickly finishing the bread in her hand. Nian was stunned. "A real crow?" It was like pecking. "Were you waiting for me to have breakfast together?" Nian suddenly asked. The raven nodded, a look of reluctance on her face. Nian offered her his piece of bread. The raven took the bitten piece of bread, unfazed, and continued to devour it in her unique way. It looked like feeding a pet. Nian couldn't help but think. He was curious. Before, she had only a soul, but now she had a complete body, like a real human girl. After breakfast, Nian looked at the hooded girl sitting upright in front of him and said, "Miss Raven, let's get back to the point." The hooded girl looked up, her dark eyes meeting his. "What exactly did you want to do by following me last night?" Nian raised a brow. "You were standing at my gate in the snow and wind. If anyone saw you, they might think I was torturing you." Raven thought for a moment and replied, "I wanted to follow you." "That was as good as nothing." Nian said helplessly, "You followed me for a reason, right? Like before, trying to eat my soul." The other person was from another dimension. A demon from another dimension, perhaps. Of course. His 5th permanent ability, emotion control, could tell that Raven meant no harm, otherwise he would have dealt with her last night. "I won't eat your soul," Raven shook her head. "I can't." Then why did you follow me? Nian, increasingly confused, took a sip of his milk. Raven said seriously, I can warm your bed. What? Nian nearly spit out his milk. Oh my goodness, so he really came here for sleep. Sleep in a different sense. You don't like my type. Raven looked down at her petite, girlish body and murmured, I thought you preferred Lolita. She was modeled after the Scarlet Maid Nian had brought with him when they first met in Gotham City. It's okay, I can grow. Raven said as her petite body beneath a cloak grew at a visible rate. Her delicate, fair hands and feet became slender and smooth. Her fluffy black hair lifted her hood, revealing a charming, perfect woman's face. Her clothes and cloak were stretched by the growth beneath. In less than 5 seconds, under Nian's gaze, Raven transformed from a delicate Lolita figure into a long-legged, voluptuous woman. Only the mysterious aura that lingered about her, like invisible crow feathers, remained unchanged. The mysterious black aura and the exposed white skin formed a fatal temptation. Is this okay? Raven asked. That's fantastic. Nian almost responded. How fantastic? Let me think about it. Nian rubbed his temple and asked, you want to follow me because you want to repay me, right? Raven nodded. Then you can definitely find other ways, Nian said sincerely. Raven blinked. Isn't offering your body the best way to repay? She didn't quite understand. How about you be my bodyguard for a while, okay? Nian said. He wasn't about to take advantage of the opportunity to capture the demon girl, who was new to the human world. Okay, Raven agreed. Nian reminded him, also, you should change your size and appearance back. Raven glanced at him and transformed her mature woman's body into a petite Lolita. Nian breathed a sigh of relief. After all, it was too big, and he was afraid he couldn't control it. So, when Nian went out again, he was accompanied by a black-clad, hooded girl. Her identity was an alien demon. Alice, reduced to the size of a thumb and in stealth mode, appeared and disappeared like a spirit, following Nian's side. Master, where are we going today? Alice asked curiously. Nian glanced at the darkening sky and slowly uttered the name of a city, Gotham. Gotham City, the outer suburbs. It was clearly daytime, but the sky was as gloomy as if night was about to fall. Woo! With a sharp, mournful sirens, police cars and fire trucks arrived in front of a house, but the flames had already completely engulfed it. Blazing flames, thick smoke billowed. Many Gotham residents stopped to watch. Ding-a-ling, just then. Right in front of the burning house, the door of a cafe gently opened. A Gothic woman with short black hair emerged from the cafe, not even glancing at the fire. She gracefully opened her small black umbrella and turned to leave, heading down a side street. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 466, Gwen's Love Affair. Gotham. Under the gloomy sky, there are modern streets with some Gothic and church styles. Compared with other cities, there are no eye-catching colorful billboards and three-dimensional projections. A black-haired young man in a dark red windbreaker and a hooded girl are going deeper into the winding and narrow alleys of the Edge City. Abandoned garbage and trash cans can be seen everywhere in the streets and alleys. It seems that this city has not changed in the past few years. A tiny invisible shadow of a girl flashed in the air, like a point of light leading the way ahead. Master. Alice suddenly stopped in the air. Why, are we there? Nian raised his eyes. Alice said, it's just ahead. But someone is following you from behind. Yes, I noticed it. Nian nodded. The spider sense had already detected someone following behind, but because the spider sense did not have too many warnings, he ignored it. Alice quickly identified the other party and replied, it's the local gutter gang. They probably saw you were from out of town and wanted to extort some money. Gangs still exist these days. Nian shook his head and chuckled, feeling worthy of Gotham, a city known for its simple folkways. The hooded girl didn't turn around, a dark glint in her eyes as she slowly raised her hand. Nian said, no need to kill them, just make them temporarily halt their actions. As soon as he finished speaking, 3 gang members who had been sneaking around the corner of the street suddenly collapsed. Let's go. Nian ignored the minions and, with Raven and Guan Luo, continued deeper into the alley, led by Alice. Shortly after they left, two young men in combat uniforms appeared at the corner, staring in surprise at the gang member who had fallen to the ground. One of the young men was dressed like a special forces soldier, wearing a bulletproof uniform that looked a bit heavy-set in a conspicuous red hood. The other young man was dressed casually in a short-sleeved shirt and shorts, his arms bare even in the winter. His shirt was also a striking, vibrant red, and he wore green off-road gloves and boots. They were the two remaining Robins of the Batman family in Gotham, Jason Todd, the third Robin, and Tim Drake, the fourth Robin. Are they dead? Jason Todd, the third Robin, looked around quickly, seeing no one else. No. Tim crouched down, quickly checking the breath of the three fallen men. After confirming their condition, he replied with a quizzical expression, "They fell asleep." Asleep, here. Red Hood was puzzled, but he suggested, "Contact Gordon first and take them back." Red Robin nodded, reaching out to lift the two burly men onto his shoulders. He stood and looked toward a corner where an old public security camera stood, with Alice leading the way. Finally, Nian stopped at a house. No one was inside, but the lock was still new, indicating they had recently moved in. Without Alice's prompting, Nian knew this was their destination. Alice explained, 2 days ago, the hostess, Steele Hyman, claimed that her husband had died in the flash incident 5 years prior. He was knocking on the door. His demeanor and tone were very strange, but she was certain it was indeed her husband. "Guan Luo, did you sense anything?" Nian's gaze fell on the doorway, where several dark, sunken handprints remained, as if someone had violently slapped on it. Inside a dark red windbreaker, a starfish in a glass jar opened its single eye. "There's a chilling, ominous aura here. A very strange being has been here." "It's the dead," Raven suddenly said. "No, it's the living, soulless. Without a soul, how can it still be considered a living being? But the dead don't go back to their homes." Nian shook his head. "The soul and the body may seem separate, but they are actually a connected whole, neither of which is perfect without the other." He was the most qualified person to speak on this point, having died once before. Nian's gaze fell on the doorway. With his fourth permanent ability, he saw wisps of black mist invisible to others. They were remnants of the law of death. From this, Nian could confirm, just as his aunt had said, the dead had truly been resurrected in the outside world. However, this so-called resurrection was not a perfect resurrection, but rather was controlled and manipulated by a sinister force connected to the law of death. Now, in Washington, at Sheriff George's house. "I'm full." The short-haired blonde woman in pink bunny pajamas put down her knife and fork, pouting her soft, shiny lips. She was about to return to her bedroom to sleep when she noticed her parents, seated at the table across from her, staring intently at her. "What are you doing?" Gwen blinked, confused, her bunny ears and oversized pajamas swaying. Sheriff George, with his graying temples, exchanged a glance with his wife, Mary Jane. Mrs. Mary Cofton asked, "Gwen, don't you have to work today?" "Future Chronicles must have a lot of work to do." "It's a day off," Gwen smiled. "It's true that the company has a lot of work to do every day, but it's divided among different departments and groups. You can all rest during your breaks. No need for overtime or anything like that." "Oh, so that's why," Mrs. Mary warned. "As the headquarters manager, you have to do your job well. Future Chronicles isn't just any company. Competition for positions is fierce these days." "Don't worry," Gwen smiled. Her parents still didn't know who owned Future Chronicles. If they did, they'd be shocked. Even if she didn't go to work for a month or a year, she'd still be the company manager. At worst, she could just give the chairman of Future Nian an injection. Gwen's face flushed slightly at the thought. Even after all these years, she still felt easily ashamed about this. Sheriff George and Lady Mary noticed their daughter's expression and their faces grew even more serious. Seeing his wife didn't bring it up, Sheriff George said in a deep voice, "Gwen, you're not young anymore. It's time to bring your boyfriend home." "What?" Gwen was stunned. Sheriff George said sternly, "We did promise you back then that we wouldn't interfere with your relationship, but now it's been a few years. It's time you bring him home." Lady Mary said, "Yes, this weekend." Sheriff George had been worried that his daughter, Gwen, would have a hard time getting over the disappearance and death of the boy from the next-door neighborhood. But 5 years ago, Gwen had clearly found a real relationship, and a smile was plastered on her face. Sheriff George felt it was time to meet him. Without waiting for Gwen to refuse, Sheriff George and Lady Mary left the table, and the girl, oh no, the girl was clearly arranged. Chapter 467. You and I are destined to be together, Sister Death. This. Gwen's beautiful face was filled with worry. She ruffled her short blonde hair until it was a mess, leaving a few noticeable strands of alopecia sticking out. Then she returned to her bedroom. It was clear her parents were serious this time. A meeting seemed inevitable. Let's contact him first and discuss it. Gwen sat down in her chair, glanced down at the silver-crowned dimension ring on her right hand, and was about to reach out to rub it. But then, a desk drawer inexplicably trembled, and a green light shone from the crack. Gwen's eyes narrowed slightly, and she reached out to open the desk. A green ring immediately flew out. Legion assemble. Gwen thought nothing of it, and she slipped the glowing green ring onto her thumb. The next moment, Gwen's pajamas were replaced by a tight green combat suit, perfectly hugging her slender, flexible limbs. The dark green hood rested on her delicate head, just enough to conceal her short blonde hair. A dazzling green glow emanated from the center of her chest, and mystical spiderweb-like patterns adorned her clothing. Gwen swiftly and gracefully stepped forward, locked the door, and expertly activated a household robot to serve as a stand-in. Then, Green Lantern Gwen opened the window and leaped out. Raising her right hand, adorned with a Green Lantern ring, she vanished in a beam of light. Not vanish, but teleport. Instantly, Gwen crossed a vast expanse of space, joining countless Green Lanterns from across the universe, converging and descending upon a single location deep within the universe. It was a small planet, yet it housed the headquarters of the Green Lantern Corps, a leading force in the universe. Gwen, you're here. As Green Lantern Gwen landed on an empty platform, she heard a voice calling out. It was a reddish-skinned alien man, also clad in a Green Lantern uniform. Sinestro, Green Lantern Gwen nodded. 4 years ago, when she was chosen as the successor to the Green Lantern ring, it was he who had guided her. Sinestro looked at Gwen with a complex expression. He clearly knew that the current human women were from Earth. Earth in Sector 2814. 4 years ago, 3 events rocked the Green Lantern Corps. First, several Green Lanterns were killed and devoured by the Parallax Monster. One of the unclaimed Green Lantern rings chose the strong-willed human woman, Gwen Stacy. Second, the Parallax Monster, despite clearly targeting Earth, ultimately refused to enter, as if it feared a presence there. It subsequently vanished from the universe. Third, a young human from Earth broke into the current Green Lantern Corps headquarters. This was the first time in countless millennia that a non-lantern ring-bearing being had entered Green Lantern headquarters. Sinestro still remembers it vividly. After all, 4 years ago, he was one of the people who tried to stop the young human from breaking into headquarters. However, he and a dozen elite Green Lanterns were defeated in less than 3 seconds. That mysterious crimson-colored young human, despite not possessing a lantern ring, possessed incredible strength. That disparity in power couldn't be bridged simply by sheer numbers. Even the strongest willpower would be shattered by him. If the other party hadn't intended to kill them, Sinestro wouldn't even be standing here right now. Later, the Guardians who founded the Green Lantern Corps issued a decree granting the Scarlet Youth access to the innermost recesses of the Green Lantern Corps headquarters. After a secret conversation with the Guardians, the Scarlet Youth finally left. I'm going to the rendezvous first. Green Lantern Gwen, with no intention of speaking to Sinestro, escaped gravity and flew straight towards Green Lantern Square. Sinestro watched Gwen's retreat, a strange glint in his eyes. He slowly opened his clenched fist, revealing another ring in his palm. It was the same ring as the Green Lantern, but glowing with a hazy yellow light. This ring, too, had been struck by the Scarlet Youth. Sinestro felt that willpower alone was a fragile source of strength. Only the power of fear could truly lead the Corps and forge a future. Green Lantern Gwen landed in the plaza in front of a massive stone platform containing lantern rings. The now empty plaza was now filled with Green Lanterns, hailing from various sectors of the universe and from diverse races. Gwen was the only human. This was why Gwen chose to join the Green Lantern Corps. Through the Corps, she could gain access to vast cosmic information and share it with the Destiny Alliance when appropriate. She possessed not only a Green Lantern ring but also a dimensional ring, allowing her to return to the elemental dimension at any time or summon Destiny Alliance members, ensuring her safety. Meanwhile, many Green Lanterns were discussing an emergency meeting. Green lanterns, please be quiet. 2 green lanterns, along with Sinestro, stood on the stone platform. One of them, his expression tense, spoke solemnly, "This emergency meeting is a matter of vital importance to every Green Lantern. The Guardians, drawing upon the cosmic revelations of the Book of OA, have issued a prophecy regarding the Blackest Night." The Blackest Night. Some new Green Lanterns looked bewildered, while many veterans paled at the words. The Guardian spokesperson continued solemnly, "That's right. Our universe will be destroyed in this prophecy." Nian led Raven out of the alleys of Gotham and onto the busy pedestrian street outside. A light snow had begun to fall, and some passers-by held up umbrellas. "Master, where are we going next?" Alice asked. 2. Nian stopped short before he finished. His brown eyes widened, and he suddenly took a step forward, dashing into the crowd on the pedestrian street. "Master!" Alice hurriedly caught up. Raven also followed in small steps. Nian didn't respond. His pace became faster and faster, moving quickly across the sidewalk, glancing at the passers-by holding black umbrellas from time to time. Until he arrived at a busy intersection in Gotham. Nian looked around at the crowds of people coming and going, and his spider sense spread outward, but he could no longer find the familiar figure. So, if someone doesn't want to be discovered, then no creature can find her. Only on the day of death will there be a very low chance of seeing her again. "Master, what's wrong?" Alice, in her thumb-sized invisible state, flew over and asked worriedly. But the hooded girl, Raven, knew. She could tell instantly that the young man looked for someone very important. Raven also thought that the young man could look for her so eagerly, even just once. "Nothing." Nian shook his head, a look of disappointment etched on his face. But just as Nian turned back, he froze again, his gaze fixed on a spot at the intersection. Beside the busy sidewalk, on a public bench for people waiting for the bus, sat an elegant black silhouette, a small, folded black umbrella leaning against it. Nian slowly walked forward, weaving through the crowd until he reached the bench. Approaching, the Gothic woman said calmly, "This is the first time I've seen someone actively chasing death." Nian's lips curled up in a smile. "Perhaps it's because I have a connection with death." Chapter 468 Farewell to the Death Sister. Downtown Gotham City. Next to the intersection. Alice and Raven both stopped behind Nian, watching the short-haired black woman he was talking to. She was dressed in a Gothic style, a sleeveless black t-shirt, long jeans, and a small cross on her chest. She looked to be around 28 years old, with a slim figure and no excess fat. She had short black hair that reached her ears, a delicate face with light makeup, and pale skin. She was an intelligent and beautiful mature woman. On her pale and delicate face, the eyeliner on her right eye created a delicate black note, and an aura of mystery lingered about her. The Gothic woman wore no color at all. If she were walking down the street like this, with a small black umbrella, she would be so low-key that passers-by wouldn't notice her. But Alice and Raven were clearly not ordinary people, and since Nian valued her so much, they naturally took the time to observe her. Alice is a technological creation, possessing artificial intelligence, a vibranium body, and the power of the Mind Stone. She's far more flawless than the previous Ultron. Raven, on the other hand, is a demonic creature from another dimension, possessing a magically shaped human body. They each represent the pinnacle of Earth's current supernatural realms, both in technology and magic. Alice saw that Earth's vast databases couldn't find any information about the Gothic woman's identity. It was as if she had simply appeared in Earth's Gotham City. As for the scans, Alice could only repeatedly conclude that she was an ordinary person. Clearly, someone who couldn't be ordinary, yet the scan data showed her as an ordinary person, indicating that her very existence was beyond the comprehension of current technology. Raven's face beneath her hood was more solemn than ever. From the Gothic woman, Raven sensed a faint aura of death, a scent far more terrifying than her father's, enough to send her hair tingling with fear. But the Gothic woman concealed her aura so perfectly that even Raven, at that moment, felt only calm, even gentle and approachable. A sudden realization struck Raven. The other person had no soul, merely appearing here in another form. Or perhaps, in her current form, she was merely recording something. "I know, she is." A hypothesis surfaced within Raven, her petite body trembling violently. Everyone fears death, let alone death itself. Danger, she's dangerous. Raven wanted to step forward and pull the young man back, Nian knew. The other person was one of the few in the world who could pose a threat to him, capable of wiping him out. But Nian showed no fear at all. Far from fearful, he seemed completely relaxed, a bright smile playing on his face. "Sister, I'm a little tired from walking," Nian said with a wink. The Gothic woman gave him a blank look. "Sit down. Then I won't be polite." Nian stepped forward, sitting directly next to the Gothic woman on the empty seat next to her. This stopped Raven, who had been trying to pull him back. Nian looked at the Gothic woman's graceful profile and couldn't help but ask, "Sister, what are you doing in Gotham City? Is someone here going to die today?" The Gothic woman didn't respond, her beautiful eyes fixed on the intersection ahead. Nian didn't care, but continued, "After we separated that time, I successfully returned here and awakened to the aura of death lingering around you. Could this be the law of death you once spoke of? You must have traveled a lot in these 5 years." Nian continued to talk, the Gothic woman's face calm and composed, wondering if she was listening. This was the way they had been together for 3 years. During those 3 years when Nian survived as a spirit, Nian naturally felt extremely bored. Besides his daily chats with Red Skull, when he was out on duty with the Gothic woman, he would also talk incessantly while parasitizing the puppet. Nian himself was not a talkative person, but for some reason, when he was with a Gothic woman, he opened up. Perhaps it was because Nian could freely reveal his thoughts and concerns to her. After all, death doesn't care about anything, not even the death of the earth or the universe. She is just a witness to death, a lofty figure, a unique being above all others. Nian feels that being able to share his secrets and thoughts with death is a unique right he enjoys in this world, and even in the multiverse. Just now, I discovered someone in this city who is manipulating the resurrection of the dead behind the scenes. Nian was just saying this. The Gothic woman suddenly said, "You are still the same as before." A hint of surprise flashed in Nian's eyes, and then she smiled and said, "Sister, you are the same as before, without any changes." "There are changes." The Gothic woman murmured softly. "What?" Nian was stunned for a moment, not understanding what her sister meant. "I should go." As the Gothic woman spoke, without waiting for Nian's response, she had already picked up her small umbrella and stood up from the chair. "So soon? Can't you stay a little longer? I was thinking of showing you around Earth, the civilization I live in." Nian's eyes dimmed for a moment, but then he smiled again and waved goodbye. "See you next time, sister." He believed that fate would always bring them together, just like this time. "Goodbye, brother." The Gothic woman's face was calm and gentle. She glanced back at Nian, opened her small black umbrella, and walked forward onto the pedestrian street. Nian watched the woman's retreating figure beneath a snowy curtain, and suddenly, with an inexplicable feeling, a sense that after this separation, we would never see each other again. This time, the Gothic woman's appearance here seemed to be a special farewell. Yes, this world is more than just this vast. Besides the current universe, there are infinite worlds. Why do you think you'll be able to meet the only one in the multiverse again? "Sister," Nian suddenly shouted at the black figure, "you left something behind." The Gothic woman seemed not to hear him and continued walking forward, her figure about to disappear into the snow. "Is this yours?" Nian pulled something from his dimensional ring and said to the figure standing nearby, "You left this behind." It was a one-eyed pirate bear, a patched-up rag doll. The Gothic woman paused, holding her umbrella. But just as Nian was about to charge forward with the rag doll, she took a step forward and vanished into the snowy city. Death, after all, had left. Chapter 469, Earth changes dramatically, the second doomsday. Somewhere in the universe, at the Green Lantern Corps headquarters, on Planet Square, thousands of Green Lanterns transformed into streams of green light, traversing space and rapidly returning to their respective sectors of the universe. The prophecy of cosmic destruction caused by Blackest Night undoubtedly cast a pall of crisis and death over the hearts of every Green Lantern. Green Lantern Gwen was about to return to Earth to inform the Destiny Alliance of this event. But then, the 3 Green Lanterns who had stood on the Ringstone platform and announced the Blackest Night prophecy descended toward Gwen. "Gwen, I have something to discuss with you." One of the Green Lanterns, Sinestro, spoke first. "What is it?" Green Lantern Gwen looked at the 3 in surprise. "About Parallax." Sinestro's face was solemn as he spoke in a deep voice. "You know this too. 4 years ago, The original owner of the Green Lantern ring you wear was killed by Parallax, a creature that wields the power of fear. Green Lantern Gwen nodded and asked, "Hasn't Parallax disappeared 4 years ago?" Although Gwen had only been a member of the Green Lantern Corps for 4 years, her experience was quite limited compared to some veterans who had been there for decades or even centuries, but she still understood the importance of this. Green Lanterns, whose rings draw their emotional power from the will of the universe, number over 7,000 and guard the various sectors of civilization across the universe. The Green Lantern Corps is one of the most powerful forces in the universe since ancient times, rivaling the civilizations of Krypton and Apocalypse. Parallax, whose power stems from the emotion of fear, can destroy and devour the will of others, posing a significant threat to the Green Lantern Corps. Although Parallax suddenly disappeared a few years ago, it is now certain that it has been lurking in Sector 2814, which you guard, Sinestro said solemnly. It's even near Earth, where you live. Green Lantern Gwen's expression changed slightly. The blackest night is approaching, Sinestro said. Some elite Green Lanterns and I have decided to form a combat team and head to your sector to eliminate the potential threat, the Parallax monster. Since it's your sector, you lead the way. Sinestro's words made it hard for Gwen to refuse. Green Lantern Gwen pondered and ultimately agreed. Now, deep in the universe, a civilization graveyard lay dotted with spaceship wreckage and numerous meteorites. There was no sign of life here. No light, only a dead silence. Thump, thump, thump. A heart floated in the center of the ruins, its powerful beat gradually fading, as if its energy had been drained away. If Nian were present and saw this scene, he might recall this. This was the Dark Elf civilization graveyard, where the ether particles were once buried. He had come here once before, searching for Wanda. And when he, in his Prince Fusion mode, slew the Dark Elves' leader, Malekith, in Asgard, he had slain the Dark Elves' leader, Malekith. The heart within Malekith had been missing for some unknown time. Thump, thump. The elven heartbeat completely subsided, the energy fluctuations vanishing, and with a throbbing movement, a small object flew out of the heart. It was a ring. A dark ring, shrouded in an evil aura. Master. Alice, like a mechanical elf, flew onto Nian's shoulder. It's all right. Nian shook his head, looking at the spot where the gothic woman had vanished. He then placed the one-eyed pirate doll in his hand back into the devouring dimension. Seeing his somewhat dejected expression, Raven, standing behind him, clenched his fists, sensing the disparity in treatment. Why was he so cold to Raven? Raven was about to say something when something unexpected happened. Boom! With a roar of thunder, a building on the neighboring Gotham Street collapsed without warning, shaking the ground violently. Oh my God! What happened? A terrorist attack. At the intersection. The citizens who witnessed this shocking event were stunned. Screams erupted, and passers-by frantically fled. Boom! Immediately afterwards, another building collapsed in the surrounding district, signaling that this was no simple accident. Alice, what's going on over there? Nian looked up at the neighboring district, where clouds of dust were billowing. He and Raven stood calmly on the chaotic street, gathering information. Alice quickly shot 2 tiny white beams from her eyes, forming a 3-dimensional projection. Nian was stunned. The projection revealed that in the neighboring district, amidst the swirling dust of collapsed skyscrapers, a massive, terrifying figure stood tall above the ruins. It stood 3 or 4 meters tall, clad in tattered silver armor, a half-broken horn atop its head, and golden lightning lingered on its body. Nian was stunned because it looked so familiar. Steppenwolf? That's right. That was indeed the Steppenwolf he'd killed 8 years ago, when he entered Super God mode. However, the 3D projection showed Steppenwolf's eyes were pitch black, and his exposed body was rotten, like a reconstructed corpse. I want to go home. The deceased Steppenwolf whispered hoarsely, one moment weeping, the next on a killing rampage. Raven stared at the projection and whispered, it's the same creature whose traces were left in the alley house. Alice quickly said, Master, it's not just Gotham City, other cities are experiencing alarming unrest. The 3D projection screen switched, showing real-time footage of New York City, Metropolis, Washington, and other urban areas. In New York City, the streets of Times Square were in chaos. A middle-aged man limped, a crimson liquid oozing from his body. This crimson liquid formed into tentacles that pierced the surrounding walls and lampposts. Symbiote? Nian frowned. More than that. A giant, feces yellow figure, its solid skeleton and muscles fused together, leaped from the city's skyscrapers, emitting a chilling, monster-like roar. Was that the abomination? Nian would never forget the formidable foe he slew the first time he triggered his master of the familiar's power. In Washington, a middle school building, a large number of students were fleeing. A 2-meter-tall lizard monster could be seen crawling out. Behind it stood a middle-aged man wearing sunglasses, his back adorned with 4 mechanical octopus claws. Both the lizard monster and the middle-aged man's exposed skin were rotten. Dr. Lizard, Dr. Octopus? Nian felt like his school day memories had been rekindled. This was a true reunion. However, those memories weren't particularly pleasant. Metropolis. Port Island, Superman Plaza. A 3D projection showed a fierce battle taking place there. The air was turbulent, and the ground was shaking. A tall man in a blue Superman suit was locked in combat with a monster resembling the abomination, yet vastly larger. The green monster's body was covered in bumps, and it possessed long, dark, spiky claws. Astonishing energy gushed from it, like a creature from hell. Superman, even at a disadvantage? That's Doomsday. Nian, despite never having faced him before, recognized him instantly. It was Doomsday, the same creature that had killed Superman. Chapter 470. Who killed this villain before? The Devouring Dimension. The Destiny Alliance headquarters. Sister, this place is even more amazing than Paradise Island. A blonde girl in a red dress trotted from the corridor to the balcony, her hands resting on the railing, her well-developed curve stretched out as she took in the magnificent scenery outside. A large waterfall cascaded down from the nearby mountain, its steam drawing a rainbow. Cassie, the magical girl, her eyes sparkling like stars as she surveyed the outline of half the planet below. Behind her, a silver-haired woman in a gorgeous crown and a long dress wearing armor walked out of the room, a faint smile on her flawless face. This mountain was actually designed to a large extent according to some of the layouts of Paradise Island. Independent universe, artificial planet, second base. This is so cool. Cassie was amazed and waved her clenched fist. Sure enough, it was the right decision to come out of Amazon Paradise Island. Cassie turned around and sat on the railing suspended 10,000 meters in the air, looking at the woman who was perfect in her mind and in reality. Sister was also taught by Aunt Antiope, right? That was nearly 100 years ago. Diana smiled lightly and asked, "Is Antiope okay lately?" "She's doing very well." Cassie stuck out her tongue and shook her legs. "I suffered a lot under her hands." Diana smiled and said, "That's why Amazon Paradise Island has so many outstanding female warriors." "Yes, but compared to Paradise Island, I prefer the outside world." Cassie, the magical girl, lifted herself up with both hands and gracefully leaped down from the railing. Her resolute, bright blue eyes fixed on Diana. "Sister, you must have found what you've been searching for on Paradise Island, haven't you?" Diana stepped forward, the sunlight glittering on her crown. "On the contrary, when I first left Paradise Island, I quickly lost faith in the human world. Until later." Diana paused, her slender fingers instinctively touching the pristine ring on her left ring finger, a beautiful, gentle smile breaking across her face. "Can you tell me about him?" Cassie asked softly, her gaze fixed on the ring, made of an indeterminate material. "Him." Before Diana could finish her words, a slight cracking sound echoed, and a crack appeared on the pristine ring. Hey. Cassie panicked for a moment. She knew without asking that the ring held special meaning for Diana. Diana frowned, her heart evidently distressed. This simple ring, by any measure, seemed insignificant, a far cry from the dimensional ring worn on her middle finger. But what mattered was the significance of this ordinary ring. It was the engagement ring a young man had given her 8 years earlier as a farewell. As Diana and Cassie watched, cracks began to form on the pristine ring, until, like shedding its shell, it revealed the pure, flawless amethyst within. An amethyst ring? Cassie wasn't the only one surprised. Even Diana, who had worn it for 8 years, hadn't anticipated this. Even using divine powers to examine it, the ring remained unchanged, seemingly unremarkable enough to be discarded without anyone picking it up. Simply because it was given to her by that person, Diana kept wearing it. And now, dense cracks covered the surface of the simple ring, revealing the purest amethyst within, a mysterious purple glow emanating from the cracks. A sweet, celestial voice rang out, "Intelligent life forms have been identified. Diana, Prince of Earth, You hold a deep love within you. Welcome to Star Sapphire. Downtown Gotham. The two teenage superheroes remaining in Gotham, Red Hood and Red Robin, stood on a chaotic street, staring at the towering werewolf in the rubble ahead. The two Robins had just witnessed the werewolf, using his monstrous physique and brute force to shatter the entire load-bearing wall of a building. Facing the ruins, a being shimmered with the golden lightning, its breath blazing with heat. Its dark, beastly eyes were filled with murderous fury, its decaying yet powerful 3 or 4 meter tall body. Red Hood Jason Todd and Red Robin Tim Drake trembled in fear, their legs seemingly sinking into the muddy ground, unable to move. They knew they had to stop the werewolf, but their bodies refused to obey. Damn it, Tim, move. Red Hood gritted his teeth and drew his gun. Of course I know, I just wasn't fully aware. Red Robin growled, finally suppressing his primal fear and instincts to flee. But then, the alien werewolf had already spotted the two. Wielding a weapon resembling a half-sawn streetlight, it charged at them at full speed like a tank. It's over. Red Hood and Red Robin's minds went blank. At that critical moment, several tactical missiles blasted down on the werewolf's back, exploding with blinding white light and orange flames. Swoosh! A mechanized black man swooped down, landing swiftly in front of Red Hood and Red Robin. Mr. Cyborg. The two Robins stared at him in surprise, clearly recognizing this former Justice League member. Meanwhile, Cyborg's cyborg face was utterly solemn, his cybernetic eye intact, right eye fixedly staring straight ahead. Even Metal couldn't help but wonder, how could it be that? Tramp. Amidst the blast and dust clouds created by the tactical missiles, the alien werewolf's form showed no sign of damage. Its dark eyes glared coldly in their direction. Mr. Cyborg, what the hell is that? Red Hood couldn't help but ask. Cyborg replied bitterly, Steppenwolf. Is it Steppenwolf, the supervillain who nearly destroyed Earth and was one of Apocalypse's generals? Wasn't he eliminated? Red Robin gasped. He had also read the Justice League's intelligence files and knew that Steppenwolf was the foremost enemy they faced upon their founding. Back then, Steppenwolf had nearly succeeded. Even the combined forces of the Justice League couldn't stop him. Regardless, it stands before us now, that's an undeniable fact, Cyborg said gravely. Go get the people evacuated. It's not something you can handle. Even if he faced Steppenwolf, he could only hold him back, not defeat him. Elsewhere, in New York City. With a bang. A gold and silver painted Iron Man was hammered back, crashing through the solid walls of 3 or 4 buildings. Who killed it before? Iron Man Tony Stark struggled to get up from the rubble, his metal eye sockets shining white as he looked at the intersection. There stood a green and yellow monster covered with back thorns, even stronger and more ferocious than the Hulk. Artificial Intelligence Friday quickly responded, Sir. This is the silver-haired goddess, also known as the Silver God. She successfully beheaded it 8 years ago. How does this thing behead people? Before the middle-aged Iron Man could think about it, accompanied by a tremor in the earth, the green and yellow giant abomination rushed over again. Chapter 471, Go and Invite Nian Prince! Exclamation mark. New York, on the other side of town. In Times Square. Zzz. A female figure in a red battlesuit spun in circles, her movements exceeding the limits of dynamic field of view and camera capture. She seemed to merge with a golden lightning. A crimson tentacle monster, its exoskeleton formed of liquid, was surrounded. Run faster. College student Jesse Chambers, known as both Jesse Quick and the Free Bell, used the speed force to swirl around the suddenly appearing undead creature, trapping it with lightning and gusts of wind. Black Kitten, I'm going to kill Black Kitten. The crimson tentacle monster spoke hoarsely, muttering cruel words. A decaying crimson fluid oozed from its body, causing intense physical discomfort. I don't care what cat you want to kill. You've harmed the citizens here, and I have an obligation to punish you. Jesse Quick said, finding the perfect moment to slip through the gap between the crimson monster's massive arms. At that instant of extreme speed, the resulting lightning and winds converged on the crimson monster, triggering an explosion. Bang! The lightning, along with the air, pierced the crimson monster, causing it to explode like a balloon. With Times Square as its center, a decaying crimson liquid splattered everywhere. Jesse Quick moved with incredible speed, gracefully and lightly dodging all the liquid and dirt, stopping 10 meters away. Are there any other monsters appearing? Jesse Quick exhaled softly and looked up at the sky above New York City. A huge movement could be heard from there. Jesse quick turned and was about to run in that direction. A strange gurgling sound of running water and squirming reached his ears. Startled, Jesse quick turned back to see the decaying crimson liquid that had spilled onto the ground rapidly coalescing, forming countless strands as it solidified into a monstrous body. Hasn't it been solved yet? Jesse Quick's eyes widened. Washington, D.C., Middle School. Sean Prince. Where's Sean Prince? The resurrected Dr. Octopus and the lizard monster lingered with an ominous aura. Both the former's human form and the latter's lizard flesh were extensively decayed, resembling spirits from hell. The remaining 4 members of the Junior League, Nightwing Dick, Damian Wayne, Starfire, and Jonathan Kent, were blocking these resurrected villains at the school building entrance. I don't know where my uncle is. Jonathan Kent, the son of Superman, shouted, his small body charging forward like a cannonball, engaging the resurrected lizard monster. What did you say? Sean Prince is your uncle. Jonathan's words stunned the other 3 members of the Junior League. I forgot to tell you. I'll explain later. Jonathan Kent, holding the lizard monster, rushed into the school building together. Then I'll kill you, and then I'll kill him. Dr. Octopus stood there with a frozen expressionless face, his 4 mechanical octopus claws waving forward. Nightwing Dick, Damian Wayne, and Starfire all leaped into action, joining forces to fight Dr. Octopus. An extraordinary battle began. Meanwhile, across from the teaching building, in the library, Instructor Roth Harrington placed a finger to his lips, gesturing to the middle school students hiding inside to be quiet. He walked to the library window, watching the 4 junior leaguers engaged in a fierce battle with Dr. Octopus and the lizard monster, his expression a momentary trance. Just now, Instructor Roth heard 2 supervillains call out the name of one of his former students. So, he's been protecting us all this time, Roth muttered to himself. In that instant, everything clicked. The reason why teachers and students had remained safe despite all the extraordinary incidents they had encountered in the past was because of the constant presence of the other. 8 years ago, this very middle school had hosted a young student who was nothing short of a god. Instructor Roth sighed, crouching nervously in front of the classroom window, watching the 4 young heroes locked in a fierce battle with Dr. Octopus and the lizard monster. But then, out of the corner of his eye, Roth noticed a man crouching on the rooftop of a high-rise building next to the classroom. He was holding a gun, aiming at the battle between Dr. Octopus and the Junior League. Not good. Roth tried to shout, but it was too late. Bang! Gunfire rang out. In the first-floor hallway of the classroom building, little Jonathan, battling the lizard monster, was shot. He screamed and fell to the ground, clutching his tiny left shoulder. It's a kryptonite bullet. Damian Wayne exclaimed in shock. Jonathan, Nightwing Dick, distracted by his panic, was ripped away by a mechanical octopus claw. Dick, Spark, also furious, erupted with a stream of orange flame from his hands, forcing Dr. Octopus back. Take care of that kid first. Dr. Octopus decisively turned and rushed towards the direction where little Jonathan had fallen, intending to join forces with the lizard monster to take down the wounded Jonathan. With the son of Superman falling, the situation quickly deteriorated. Jonathan, run! Damian Wayne and Starfire shouted. Shot and falling, little Jonathan struggled, but could not get up. He could only watch helplessly as the 2 doctors of the dead approached. Die? The lizard monster's massive, green-scaled fist slammed into Jonathan's tiny head, and Dr. Octopus thrust his mechanical octopus claws into the boy's chest. No. Nightwing Dick's eyes blazed red, but he could do nothing. The fist and claws fell. In an instant, the expressions of the 3 members of the Junior League, Nightwing Dick, and the lizard monster of the dead, froze. A slender, white hand blocked the green-scaled fist, while another simultaneously grasped the mechanical claws. Whoosh! The wind blew, and the cape fluttered. A beautiful and powerful young woman stood there. She had smooth platinum hair, translucent eyes as bright as sapphires, a high nose bridge, and lips so soft they lacked a single wrinkle. She wore a Kryptonian armor with the S-shaped totem. Beneath a red skirt, her slender legs were wrapped in shiny black stockings, and her feet were clad in a pair of dark red female Kryptonian combat boots. Little Jonathan exclaimed in surprise, Auntie! I told you not to run around so much? Supergirl looked delicate, but her powerful aura and force field frightened the lizard of the dead and Dr. Octopus. It's you. Lizard and Dr. Octopus recognized the beautiful girl who had once threatened them. She was clearly an adult, far more powerful than before. "Goodbye," Supergirl whispered softly. She twisted her body, grasped Lizard's hand and Dr. Octopus's claw, and swung them both around, slamming them into the classroom building at high speed. Boom! The ground of the school building sank and shattered, creating a hole that led to an unfathomable depth. Lizardman and Dr. Octopus, newly resurrected from the dead, plummeted back into the building's depths, making no sound. Supergirl glanced up at the nearby rooftop. A gunman, attempting to flee, was pierced by a laser beam. So strong. The 3 Junior League members were stunned. This was Supergirl. After forcefully dispatching the supervillain, Supergirl reached out and patted little Jonathan's shoulder, instantly absorbing the green mist from the kryptonite bullet. "Take care of him," Supergirl said to the other 3. As she was about to take flight, she suddenly glanced down at her left hand. Even through the dark red glove, wisps of white light shone through it, coating her body with a shimmering edge. "This is..." A flash of understanding flashed in Supergirl's eyes, and her body vanished in a stream of white light. Meanwhile, downtown Gotham. The vanished Supergirl reappeared here almost instantly. It wasn't so much a teleportation as a summons. "Nian." Supergirl Kara raised her eyes, looking at the black-haired young man standing a short distance ahead. "Yeah, I want that one," Nian shrugged. After careful consideration, he decided to use Supergirl's Kryptonian power as the first superimposed ability. Chapter 472, Nian takes action, the real magic Superman. After the formation of the Destiny Alliance, the dimensional rings became interconnected. The greatest benefit and purpose of this was that Nian, as a pillar of the Alliance, could selectively stack buffs at any time and from any location. It was no longer like before, where he could only stack buffs on whoever was present. Alternatively, he could choose whoever was closest to him and stack buffs on whoever was most convenient. However, with so many options came the problem of how to selectively stack buffs. Nian had naturally considered this issue. A familiar master's temporary ability lasted for 12 hours. Once activated, it could not be cancelled or replaced with other abilities, it could only be stacked on top of the temporary ability. Past experience had shown that the more temporary abilities stacked, the better. Rather, it depended on the preferences, system, strength, compatibility, and compatibility of the multiple temporary abilities. Sometimes, combining 2 or 3 overpowered abilities could cause Nian to spiral out of control, like his previous 3-in-1 Apocalypse Super God mode. Sometimes, stacking 5 or 6 abilities of a lower tier can achieve unexpectedly powerful states without losing control, like the 7-in-1 Supernatural mode. Therefore, when facing large-scale supernatural events, Nian must carefully consider which abilities to stack. For powerful villains like those from the multiverse or extra-dimensional realm, the physical abilities of Wanda and Diana's sister are extremely useful. For enemies with more intelligent or technological systems, the abilities of Alice and Poison Ivy are more suitable. And for those primarily focused on mind control, the abilities of Susan the Invisible Woman, Gwen Spider-Woman, and Mara the Undersea Queen are very useful. When facing powerful villains with exceptional physical strength, Nian would definitely prioritize the Kryptonian power of Kara. Sky's defense blinding shockwave ability is also a priority, as is the physical strength of the early symbiotes of the Worm and Venom. In short, when given the opportunity to choose a pair of abilities, it's best to selectively stack them. Otherwise, if the abilities stacked on him were too diverse or mismatched, he'd be stuck waiting for 12 hours, which would be awkward. Now, facing numerous resurrected and controlled supervillains, Nian pondered and decided to summon Supergirl Kara. When there were too many powerful enemies, each of varying types and abilities, there was no need to single them out. His Kryptonian physique, already powerful enough, could easily suppress 99% of the universe. Horizontal ellipsis. Directly transported to Gotham by the dimensional ring, Supergirl frowned at the dark-haired young man before her. "How dare you say that? You just ran out without a word." Nian spread his hands. "Well, I'll explain it to you later. I really can't help you." Supergirl Kara snorted softly, reminiscent of the girl she used to be, her white blonde hair and red cape flowing. She quickly threw herself into Nian's arms. "What did you say just now? What did you want?" Kara winked playfully, her soft, flawless lips parted, her pink tongue shimmering with shimmering water. "You," Nian replied without hesitation. His palms instinctively lifted Kara, her short red skirt and round, black-stockinged legs, and he gently lifted her up. With a loud bang, another high-rise building in the neighboring district collapsed, sending a wave of dust swirling down the street, lifting the dark red magic levitation cloak and covering them both. The next moment, a strong wind surged. Centered around Nian and Supergirl Kara, two similar and powerful force fields erupted, instantly dispersing the dust waves on the street and suppressing all disturbances. Off to the side, Raven's dark eyes reflected the two embraced figures, and he pondered, so that's how it is. The master of the familiar was triggered. Temporary Superman mode. Nian set Supergirl Kara down, and boundless power radiated from every cell in his body. His perfect super senses, combined with his enhanced spider sense, allowed him to instantly grasp every movement and sound in Gotham City. It seems the situation on the battlefield over there is not optimistic, Superman Nian muttered to himself. Over the past 5 years, Nian had completely mastered the Superman Kryptonian model. Even without the basic spider-like physique, he could perfectly master a single superhuman ability. What are you going to do? Supergirl Kara asked curiously. No rush, just one more ability, Nian replied honestly. He already had an idea for the next ability he would choose to add. Meanwhile, inside the devouring dimension, in a grand and luxurious reception hall. Miss Wanda, so impressive. Jean's eyes sparkled like stars as she gazed at the woman in a red-maid dress in front of her. She was merely demonstrating etiquette, but her gorgeous appearance and noble demeanor were genuinely pleasing to the eye. After learning about the essential abilities of a maid in the Prince family, Jean's perceptions were completely overturned. It turned out that only a near-omnipotent level of skill was necessary to be a qualified maid. Whatever the master didn't know, the maid had to master. And whatever the master knew, the maid had to master, too, though usually performing slightly better than the master. The more she learned, the more Jean admired Wanda. Wanda's face remained calm. After all, she was often praised as wonderful and the top maid, so praise from a trainee maid wasn't particularly gratifying. However, without even realizing it, a slight smile curled the corners of her mouth. Ever since Lorna's unexpected disappearance, Wanda had been feeling rather down. Miss Wanda, your ring is glowing. Jean suddenly exclaimed in surprise. Wanda snapped out of her trance and looked down at the silver crown ring, which shone with circles of white light. Master, you're calling me. Gotham, Central City. On a ruined battlefield. For the Dark Lord. Steppenwolf, with a broken horn and a decayed look on his face, growled and swung the half-broken street lamp like an axe, sending the man in the batsuit flying. Bang! Batman landed squarely on Cyborg, who had just risen from the ground, sending both of them flying 20 meters. Victor, where's Superman? Have you contacted him? The fallen Batman asked quickly. Having fought Steppenwolf before, he knew he was incredibly powerful. Cyborg smiled wryly. I've confirmed via online satellite that the situation with Clark Superman is even more dire. He's battling the resurrected Doomsday. What? The middle-aged Batman was also shocked at the words. If Steppenwolf was enough to make them incredibly difficult, then Doomsday was their nightmare. If they were facing Doomsday, even Superman wouldn't be able to protect himself, let alone come to their aid. Batman's heart sank. Who knows how many more villains might be resurrected? The deceased Steppenwolf was about to give chase when Cyborg suddenly shouted, "The Dark Lord you serve is long dead." What did you say? Steppenwolf's burly body felt as if struck by lightning, his dark eyes filled with disbelief. At that moment, a roaring Batmobile burst through a wall and slammed into Steppenwolf. Ugh! The Batmobile's rear wheels dangled in the air, emitting a continuous whirring sound. Steppenwolf's sturdy feet plowed deep into the ground, and he lifted the Batmobile with his outstretched arms. With a force from his armored hands, the armored Batmobile was swung 100 meters into the air. Dare to insult the Dark Lord's name? I will devour you alive. With dark, decaying blood dripping from the corners of his mouth, the dead Steppenwolf sharpened the end of a streetlight pole and charged towards the fallen Batman and Cyborg. Mr. Bruce, Mr. Cyborg. Not far behind, Red Hood and Red Robin, who were directing the evacuation, paled at the sight. You are Gotham's new force. No matter what happens, stay away. Batman said with difficulty, struggling to rise. He and Cyborg, who had started the engine, faced a charging Steppenwolf. At that moment, Steppenwolf suddenly stopped. Huh? Batman and Cyborg, preparing to fight, were stunned for a moment, bewildered. What is that? Red Hood and Red Robin looked up in shock, staring 100 meters above the ruined battlefield. A crimson figure hovered there, steadily catching the Batmobile that had just been tossed into the air. It was a remarkably youthful-looking young man with blazing golden red eyes, hair of vibrant crimson like a blazing fire, an S-shaped totem drawn in flames on his chest, his perfectly proportioned body swathed in crimson. Like a ball of blazing fire, the figure single-handedly carried the 10-ton Batmobile, peering down from the sky. "It's him," Batman breathed a sigh of relief. "He's here, right here in downtown Gotham." Cyborg couldn't contain his ecstasy, bursting into laughter. "Tremble, Wolf Cub. It's you." Steppenwolf also looked up, gazing with a solitary, cold gaze at the crimson youth perched high in the sky. Even if the other party had grown, even if his appearance had changed, even if his aura and abilities were different. But how could Steppenwolf forget the foe who once slew him? "This time, I'm going to kill you," the dead Steppenwolf roared, ignoring Batman and Cyborg. He flung the half-sawn lamppost in his hand and sped off into the air. The Scarlet Youth's face, etched with sharp lines, remained perfectly calm. His left hand effortlessly held the Batmobile, several times his size, and he made no attempt to dodge the half-sawn lamppost. With a swish, the sharp end of the lamppost came within 3 meters of the youth before being gently caressed by the crimson flames, disintegrating into nothingness. Facing the furious Steppenwolf charging down from above, the Scarlet Youth raised his free right hand, clenched his fingers into a fist, and delivered a simple, direct punch. This punch carried not only the power of Krypton but also a surge of strange crimson magic. Steppenwolf's dark eyes widened, his fighting instincts prompting him to switch from a punch to a defensive stance, crossing his arms over his chest. But when the crimson youth's fist landed, boom! The air exploded, crimson engulfing the air. Steppenwolf's tattered silver armor and arms shattered, the crimson fist wave piercing his chest and surging from his back like a rage. Boom! More crimson magic, combined with the force of the fist, erupted outward, blasting Steppenwolf's massive body into a cloud of bloody mist, which then quickly burned and disintegrated into nothingness along with the bone fragments and blood mist. This time, not even a trace of Steppenwolf's body remained, the newly resurrected Steppenwolf. The remaining energy of the Crimson Fist wave continued to penetrate downward, carving a 10-meter radius abyssal cave in the center of the ruined battlefield below. So powerful. Red Hood and Red Robin gasped. Previously, Steppenwolf had been so powerful that they felt hopeless, afraid to move and fight. And now, he was slain by a single blow from the mysterious young man. Even drama wouldn't dare to act like this. Wait, such a young figure, such a powerful description. Red Hood and Red Robin exchanged glances, excitedly exclaiming, "It's him." If it were that man, then it wouldn't be surprising. After all, 5 years ago, he had appeared on the battlefield of Apocalypse and turned the tide. Trample. Are you alright? Nian landed on the ground, casually lowering the Batmobile he was carrying. The ground trembled slightly with a heavy sound. "Glad you're here," Cyborg said. "Thank you." Batman gave Nian a complicated look. He always saved people himself, except for this young man. If this time was included, he knew how many times he had saved him. "You guys handle the rest," Scarlet Nian said, then instantly broke the sound barrier, transforming into a stream of fiery red flame, breaking through the clouds and disappearing into the sky. "Next, where should we go first?" Tens of thousands of meters above in outer space, Nian paused, looking down at the shrinking Earth. At this moment, Nian possessed the combined powers of Kryptonian Superman and Scarlet Mana. This was different from the Apocalypse War 5 years ago. That time, he also possessed the Apocalypse powers of the Mother Box. So, this time, he was in pure magic Superman mode. Thanks to 5 years of continuous adaptation and buffering, even with 2 top-tier abilities, Nian still perfectly controlled his fusion mode abilities. Aside from the kryptonite, which didn't weaken Nian, Kryptonian Superman's weaknesses lay in telepathy and magical resistance. Wanda's abilities perfectly complemented and enhanced these areas. "Start with you." Magic Superman Nian paused in near space for a moment. He quickly made a decision, took a step forward, and a rotating portal to Mars opened before him. The next moment, Magic Superman Nian appeared in Queens, New York, amidst the battered Hulkbuster armor and the abomination of a giant, yellow-green monster. "Who are you?" Iron Man didn't react, and even the AI didn't. Then the Magic Superman Nian suddenly punched forward, and this punch made the giant body of the abomination explode. The half-broken body fell diagonally to the ground, and a hole was sunken in the ground with a radius of 10 meters. Well, it's a little more durable than Steppenwolf. Nian took a look, and two scarlet rays were like two sword beams, cutting the ground and half of the abomination's body in front. Done all this, the magic Superman Nian continued to take a step forward without stopping, and disappeared on the spot. Only the portal formed by the two rotating Mars remained in the air. It took less than a second from appearing to kill the abomination to leaving. On the devastated extraordinary battlefield, Iron Man Tony Stark, wearing the anti-Hulk armor, looked at the corpse of the abomination on the ground with a confused look on his face. Just now, what went by so quickly? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 473, The Unsolvable Magic Superman. New York, Times Square. Zzz. Like a streak of crimson lightning, a nimble figure streaked across the parked highway at top speed. Behind it, accompanied by the sound of breaking wind, dense tentacles transformed from decaying crimson slime pursued, piercing and nailing everything in its path, impaling the road and parked cars. Half of Times Square was already riddled with holes, like a forest of decaying tentacles, thick with slime and dangling everywhere. Seeing that there were still people outside Times Square who had not yet evacuated, Jesse Quick, running at full speed, could only turn back, but the space for dodging in the battlefield was dwindling. Zzz. The decaying crimson tentacles transformed from slime formed a tidal wave and rolled towards him. Jesse Quick's figure was as fast as lightning, his slender body leaping up, stepping on the tentacles to dodge to the other side. Whoosh! Jesse Quick stopped, his body still surging with a sizzling current and a puff of heat. She gasped for air, her gaze fixed solemnly before her. At the intersection, a crimson, decaying monster, the size of a small mountain, stood. Its skull-like head, emanating a mass of crimson slime and tentacles, enveloped a small portion of Times Square. This was the first time Jesse Quick had encountered such a formidable villain. Most importantly, this liquid monster was impossible to handle. Even if she pierced it with lightning or crushed it with a storm, it would return to its original state in less than a second. Jesse Quick also noticed that each drop of the crimson decaying liquid seemed to possess its own independent will, constantly seeking to invade her body. If it weren't for her super speed, she would have been succumbed to its decay long ago. What should I do? Jesse Quick was at a loss. She could only rely on her speed to delay the enemy, without any strategy or ability to deal with it. Black Kitten, Black Kitten. The crimson monster continued its hoarse, shrill growl, like an obsession. Its crimson eye slowly shifted, glaring fiercely down at Jesse Quick, dozens of meters away. Jesse Quick's heart tightened as he watched the barbed liquid form on the monster's massive body, knowing the next wave of tentacles was coming. But then, a rustling sound. Just as Jesse Quick was about to launch into a sprint with super speed, he opened his beautiful eyes wide and saw sparks of fire appear out of thin air in front of the giant crimson monster. These sparks swirled low above the ground, forming a portal. From this strange, marshy portal, a mysterious young man in red stepped out. Who is it? Jesse Quick was stunned, staring at the young man's back, shrouded in crimson flames. At the same moment, the crimson monster suddenly roared like a madman, spraying down numerous decaying crimson tentacles, clearly targeting the mysterious young man who had just appeared. Danger! Jesse Quick shouted, attempting to rush forward to rescue him. But then, a moment later, the mysterious young man vanished from the spot, a cloud of dust slowly spreading across the ground before dense tentacles finally pierced the ground. Jesse Quick was startled. It wasn't that the mysterious young man had vanished, but that he was incredibly fast. This was the first time Jesse Quick had encountered such a speed-conscious being without the speed force. In the air, Jesse Quick used the speed force to see the man, watching as the mysterious young man soared over the crimson monster's head and struck with his right fist, shrouded in crimson flames. Bang! It was only a punch, but it instantly pierced the sound barrier and compressed the air. It was like a tactical missile detonating right in front of her, the crimson explosion more terrifying than radiation. Jesse Quick lowered her head to shield herself from the gust of wind. When she looked up again, she saw an empty space. The crimson slime monster had vanished, leaving only a few broken tentacles and slime around it, confirming its presence. "Be careful, it's not dead yet," Jessie Quick called out quickly. A mysterious young man, standing 20 meters in the air, glanced in her direction, his eyes blazing with 2 crimson laser beams. Jessie Quick was startled, but quickly realized the crimson energy lasers weren't aimed at her. Swoosh! The lasers passed through the gap beside Jessie Quick's shoulder and struck a crimson goo creeping up her back. The goo instantly let out a horrific cry before being annihilated into nothingness by the crimson flames. "Be careful," Magic Superman Nian said, ignoring Jessie Quick and scanning the surrounding squirming goo. Jessie Quick bit her lip and glanced at the young man with a hint of anger. What kind of person was this? She was worried about him. Of course, Jessie Quick also knew that he had just saved her. "I want to see how you deal with this monster," Jessie Quick muttered, but before she could finish her words, she saw the mysterious young man clench his hand. Magic Superman Nian then closed the 5 fingers of his right hand. Gurgle. The decaying slime scattered across the street was collectively drawn by a mysterious force, converging high in the sky in front of Nian. Even a single drop of the decaying crimson slime could escape, but Magic Superman mode could not hide it. The fusion of his spider sense and his 5 super senses gave Magic Superman Nian a true god's eye view. The next step was much simpler: simply envelop the entire battle area with his enhanced force field, gathering the liquid. Of course, even Superman Clark and Superwoman Kara, who also possessed force fields, couldn't do this. Force fields are usually limited to encompassing a single entity. Only Nian, with his combined telepathy and force field, could achieve such a precise envelopment and pull of the crimson liquid residue. In less than 3 seconds, in the air in front of Magic Superman Nian's clenched fist, the decaying crimson liquid was compressed into the size of a basketball, as if contained within an indestructible transparent glass sphere. No matter how the crimson liquid deformed or shifted, it could not escape. "Carnage, we meet again. But it's time to say goodbye again," Magic Superman Nian said in a low voice. "It's you, the Black Kitten." The crimson decaying liquid churned, a blood-curdling cry emanating from within. "Goodbye." Magic Superman Nian waved his left palm forward, fanning a ball of crimson flames. Infused with the properties of crimson magic, it annihilated the spherical symbiote, Carnage. This time, it took half a minute, a slight delay. Standing in the air, Nian took a step, and a portal opened again. Jessie Quick stared blankly at the mysterious young man about to depart. A flash of inspiration suddenly struck her: the person she had been searching for was him. There was no doubt about it. Realizing this, Jessie Quick instinctively activated her speed force, transforming into a blurry streak of crimson lightning. It flowed upwards along the nearby streetlight, disappearing into the portal where the young man had disappeared. As the crimson figure chased after it and entered the portal, it shrank and dissipated into tiny sparks. Chapter 474 Magic Superman and Doomsday of the Dead. What's going on? Chasing the mysterious young man through the portal, Jessie Quick stepped on empty air. She felt the freezing cold and breathless air outside, finding herself in the vast expanse of the sky. Below them, a beautiful, rounded blue planet loomed. On the other side of the portal, tens of thousands of meters above, verging on outer space. Jessie Quick's beautiful face paled beneath her veil. She tried to turn around and return to New York through the portal, but the Martian portal shrank and dissipated. "Wow!" Jessie Quick exclaimed, grabbing the mysterious young man in front of her in a tight embrace. "What are you doing?" Magic Superman Nian was speechless. Standing high in the sky, he looked down at the woman in the suit clinging to him. The tight, non-rigid red lightning suit resembled the Flash's color scheme and style, and his abilities seemed similar. "Another speedster? I'm not trying to hug you. It's just that if I don't, I'll fall." Jessie Quick let out a long breath, her arms wrapping around Nian's neck and her battle-suit-clad legs wrapped around his waist. She replied, feeling equally embarrassed. Jessie Quick was surprised to discover that, despite being in near space, once near the young man, she could not only speak but also no longer feel the cold and lack of oxygen. This was undoubtedly the effect of the superhuman force field. "Then why did you follow me?" Nian asked. If he hadn't controlled the scarlet magic, the man would have disintegrated into nothingness just by coming close, let alone hugging him. "That's because..." Jessie Quick's face flushed beneath her mask. She could feel the man's breath as he spoke, as if it were burning her through the special battle suit. His body, so hot, so hard. Now was not the time to be infatuated. Jessie Quick came to her senses and quickly puffed out her chest and asked, "Are you the legendary silver god?" "No," Nian denied without hesitation. "Who is the silver god?" "I don't know him. He was the silver god in God King mode, now he was just Magic Superman." Jessie Quick looked suspicious. "Then 5 years ago, during the Flash incident, were you the one who eliminated the winged monsters that invaded Earth?" "No," Nian denied without batting an eye. "It was Super Red mode that eliminated Apocalypse." "What did that have to do with him?" "Why are you asking?" Nian's golden red eyes danced with fire as he stared at Jessie Quick. Though he wore the lightning suit, his clairvoyant eyes revealed his true features. A quick glance revealed no secrets from Jessie Quick. Beyond his speed force, that was 1,000 times more complex than genetics, not something that could be easily deciphered. Her appearance and figure were surprisingly impressive, a true beauty. Nian looked away. Jessie Quick, unaware that he had been seen naked, replied, "I want to find that person and interview him." "So you're a reporter?" Nian said calmly. "No, I'm studying the humanities. I want to know about his work, how it changed and helped humanity," Jessie Quick said seriously. Nian shrugged. "If I knew him, I'd tell him. But he probably doesn't want to be studied." "So you know him?" Jessie Quick was pleasantly surprised. Nian didn't respond, instead gazing down at a point on the Earth's continental map. Jessie Quick turned his head and saw a sudden burst of blinding light near the upper reaches of North America. Buzz! Powerful energy waves spread through the air like tidal waves, breaking through the clouds above the city and even reaching the sky above where they were. The residual power could be felt in near space. It was hard to imagine what was happening there. Jessie Quick, using his geographical knowledge, identified it. "Is that the location of Metropolis?" Magic Superman Nian stepped forward, leading Jessie Quick through a portal that opened in tandem. The dark elf space graveyard. Wisps of black aura lingered around a black ring, emanating a wave of wisdom and thought. "Finally, I found him." At this moment, Metropolis, the harbor, Superman Plaza. Magic Superman Nian appeared low in the sky over the edge of the plaza. Jessie Quick took one look and felt his scalp tingle. He could see. The monument on the plaza was gone. From the plaza's center, the ground and greenery within a 1-mile radius had been completely wiped out. The ground had sunk 3 meters. In the very center of the plaza, a hideous monster stood. Even larger and more robust than the abomination, its hard exterior a cold, decayed gray, covered in hideous knots and barbs. Its bloated body was a massive muscle, its eyes and mouth blazing with a furious crimson light. Its roar could be heard throughout Metropolis, and in sync with it, it blasted a frenzy of energies from its eyes and mouth. Streams of energy swirled around its surface, and even more energy erupted like a tidal wave, sweeping outward. Bang! The man in the black Superman suit, locked in combat with a monster, was blasted flying by the powerful energy. With a swish, an invisible force field emanated from Nian's body, its edges igniting with crimson magic, blocking the oncoming energy. A whirring sound echoed. The man in the Superman suit, draped in a cape, flew over to Nian's side. "You're here, Superman." Jessie Quick was astonished. He naturally recognized this man, hailed as Earth's greatest hero since ancient times. This was also why Silver God claimed not to be a superhero, so no one could tell who was stronger between the two. "She's..." Superman raised his eyebrows. "I don't know her either." Nian, however, gave his future brother-in-law a break and urged, "How long do you want to hold me?" "Oh," Jessie Quick hurriedly dismounted from Nian. "Get out of here. It's extremely dangerous," Superman said to Jessie Quick, then turned solemnly to Nian. "Let's attack together. It's even more powerful than last time. I can tell. Although I didn't encounter it last time." Nian used the dimension ring and produced an object, handing it to his future brother-in-law. "Rest for a while. This is for you. If you need it later, you can find the right time to enter." It was a spear, a specially crafted spear with a dazzling green light gleaming at its tip. Doomsday had previously been killed by a kryptonite spear. Superman took the kryptonite spear in his hand, panting, and replied, "No problem." Jessie Quick stared blankly at the young man and the man standing low in the sky ahead. That guy was not only familiar with Superman, but Superman was also following his instructions. Jesse Quick could also see that Superman had great confidence in the mysterious young man, a confidence that even surpassed his own. Who exactly was he? Before Jesse Quick could think about it, she saw Nian flying alone towards the monster that made her feel terrified from the bottom of her heart. Chapter 475, Doomsday is Unkillable? Doomsday. A perfect war monster crafted from Kryptonian genes, its purpose is to hunt Kryptonians. Apocalypse acquired a mere trace of Doomsday's genes, incorporating them into the cultivation of demon-like soldiers, and the resulting increase in their power was over tenfold. 8 years ago, while Nian and Gwen were caught up in the Battle of New York, Superman and Doomsday met their end in what is now Metropolis. Later, the local city dedicated Superman Plaza to Superman's memory. Unexpectedly, after Superman's resurrection, Doomsday also resurrected in a strange way, and the battlefield was located at the original site of Superman Plaza in Metropolis. Although, Superman Plaza has now been completely shattered, leaving only a terrifying crater. Within the crater, Doomsday cast his eyes, gleaming with cold energy, at Nian, who was flying towards him. Sensing the rich aura of Kryptonian genes, he revealed his ruthless hunting intent. Doomsday roared, his 4-meter-tall, gray, cold steel body swirling with violent energy like lightning, as he stomped down with a powerful kick. Boom! The earth crumbled beneath the trampling, flattened by the energy wave. Doomsday's massive, bloated body leaped high, charging forward like a meteorite. Nian remained expressionless, his chest ablaze with an S-shaped totem of crimson flames. Crimson magic and superhuman force coated his body of steel with a blazing edge. He clenched his right fist. No further words were exchanged. After all, Doomsday lacked any human reason. He was an ultimate monster, driven only by instinct to kill Kryptonians. Doomsday extended his massive, gleaming black claws, easily ripping the air apart. The accompanying surge of powerful energy threatened to tear even the very space of Earth apart. In his magic Superman mode, Nian didn't dodge, nor did he employ any fancy magic. Instead, he unleashed a powerful punch, the full force of his current mode. This burst of crimson energy pierced everything in its path. When the massive claws of the dead Doomsday and the right fist of the magic Superman Nian collided mid-air, 10 meters above the ground, at the original side of the square, in that instant, the Metropolis Harbor Island fell silent. Then, like a small nuclear bomb, it exploded between the two. Instantaneously, a blazing light, a hurricane, shockwaves, a wave of dust, and a tidal wave of energy that swept across an area 10,000 meters in radius. Oh, my God! Jesse Quick, the free beauty at the scene, opened her rosy lips wide, her scalp tingling. Without hesitation, she turned around, using her super speed force to sprint back to the edge of the Metropolis Harbor Island, several kilometers away. Doomsday, a monster capable of suppressing Superman, was terrifying enough, and the mysterious young man who had just dealt with a symbiote massacre must have been formidable as well. Therefore, Jesse Quick had anticipated that the battle between Doomsday and the mysterious young man would be extremely fierce. But she had never imagined it would be this intense, far exceeding her previous understanding of extraordinary combat. This was just the beginning. Boom! The deafening sound of fistfights reverberated. Jesse Quick felt the island's earth tremble in agony. Cracks spread outward from the battlefield ahead, where two figures, one large and one small, engaged in fierce combat. Every clash between Magic Superman and Doomsday created a terrifying spectacle of power. Metropolis's Harbor Island shook violently, threatening to break apart. Rumble. 10 kilometers away, buildings in the main urban area of Metropolis shook violently, some construction projects began to collapse, and a large amount of glass shattered. In the city sky, swirling clouds formed a gray storm eye, a scene of impending apocalypse, with ferocious, streaking lightning showering down. When Batman, piloting the Batplane, and Iron Man, clad in the Iron Man suit, met in the sky above Metropolis, both froze. Clearly, they were in no mood to exchange greetings. The entire bustling modern city of Metropolis was in chaos, with countless residents fleeing in panic, choosing to evacuate to open spaces, subways, and bomb shelters. Earthquake. What the hell is going on? There's a live satellite broadcast of people fighting monsters in Superman Plaza. It's the monster that killed Superman, it's back again. The residents' startled chatter was a buzz, a ripple of discussion. Doomsday was the very definition of hell. The monster that killed Superman, 8 years earlier, hadn't even been harmed by humanity's vaunted nuclear bombing, only to have it become even stronger. Crack. Jessie Quick looked down and saw a fissure in the ground extending from the center of the battlefield to her feet. She clenched her fists, terrified, realizing she had no chance to even join the fight. This was destined to be a brutal, direct battle, one that would make even gods and gods tremble in fear. That guy, he must win. Jessie Quick stared nervously ahead. Further ahead, at the outer battlefield. Buzz! In the aftermath of the battle, convulsing everything, only Superman, clad in his black battlesuit, remained, watching the raging battle ahead with a solemn gaze. It seemed like a foregone conclusion. But Superman knew all too well how difficult this would be. The resurrected Doomsday had clearly inherited the saturated energy from his last nuclear absorption, transforming it into his own strength, making it several times more powerful than before. Even Superman himself had just been blown away by Doomsday's violent energy. And Nian's ability to confront and spar with Doomsday, the ultimate monster whose strength and energy far surpassed those of Krypton, was incredibly powerful. In the center of the battlefield, the magical Superman Nian delivered another punch, colliding with Doomsday's steely claws. Simultaneously, he thrust forward with a palm, sending Doomsday plummeting 100 meters into the ground. But Nian's face darkened. His palm had been a magical attack, capable of blasting spirits out of the body. But just now, Doomsday showed no signs of being blasted out. No soul. It was unclear whether Doomsday himself lacked a soul, or if he had lost it through his strange resurrection. Nian could see this through his fourth permanent ability, the Eye of Death. Within Doomsday, complex chains of death rules intertwined, binding his decaying body together. Rather than a resurrection, it was more like a walking corpse. Nian currently had no clues about the mastermind behind the resurrection, so he could only rely on his strength to defeat Doomsday. However, despite lacking immortality, Doomsday's mysterious resurrection had allowed his strength to explode unchecked. Even as he battled Nian, Doomsday continued to grow stronger. Boom! Unscathed, Doomsday leaped from the earth, unleashing energy that shattered the cave into an abyss. So strong! Nian exclaimed heartfeltly. Doomsday was undoubtedly the strongest foe he had faced, bar none. Not even Darkseid's clone could match him. Nian guaranteed that if it were Darkseid, he would have been defeated by this Doomsday. Indeed, Doomsday was that powerful. He was a Kryptonian with limitless power. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.